The Framingham School Committee consists of 9 members elected from each city district for a 2-year term. The mayor serves as an ex officio member by virtue of office and only votes to break a tie vote. The school committee adopts and oversees the administration of an annual operating budget for the school department, appoints a superintendent of the schools, and works to make all reasonable rules and regulations for the management of the public school system. The following school committee meeting coverage is brought to you by the Government Channel, a service of the City of Framingham.
Framingham School Committee meeting of Wednesday, February 4th. I call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. School committee meetings provide American Sign Language, Spanish, and Portuguese interpretation via Zoom. You can find the instructions on how to access live interpretation on the agenda on the school committee's website and when you register for Zoom. A reminder to all members and all in attendance to speak slowly to allow time for interpretation, as well as to speak into the microphones, otherwise those on Zoom cannot hear those in the room. In attendance tonight, we have District 1, Rich Robles, District 2, Lorena Tovar, District 3, Jen Moshe, District 4, Adam Freudberg, District 5, Judy Steyer, District 6, Brent Lewis, District 7, Kyle Shepard, District 8, Jessica Barnhill, District 9, William LaBarge, Mayor Charlie Sositsky, Student Advisory Chair Deborah DaVictoria. From the district, we have Superintendent Dr. Tremblay, the Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Lincoln Lynch, and the Assistant Superintendent of Pre-K to 12 Education, Ann Ludis. This meeting is live on the Government Channel and can be viewed live on Facebook on the Framingham Public Schools Facebook page. A recording of this meeting will be archived on the City of Framingham and School Committee's website as soon as possible. Meeting materials can be accessed on the committee's website page with tonight's meeting date. Members of the public can participate via Zoom, specifically during public comment. To join the meeting, join through Zoom or by calling the number 1-305-224-1968 and the webinar ID 842-3605-1553. Tonight's agenda includes public comment, announcements from the chair, mayor's update, student advisory committee presentation, superintendent's update, assistant superintendent for pre-K to 12 education update, executive director of finance and operations update, appointment of warrant signers, rules and administration subcommittee presentation and vote, vote to appoint 1 school committee member to a vacant seat on the school building committee, FY27 budget vote and submission to the mayor, subcommittee reports, including finance and operations, approval of gifts and minutes, and adjournment. All right, we'll start with public comment at every regularly scheduled school committee meeting. We reserve 15 minutes for members of the public who may wish to speak on a topic within the school committee's purview. Guidelines for public comment are located on the school committee's website. All comments will be accepted to as advice to the school committee, but may not be responded to tonight. If you request follow-up, provide your contact information and indicate in your remarks if you would like follow-up. If the matter is in the school committee's purview, we will respond. If in the superintendent's, he or his office will. If you're participating via Zoom, you can utilize the raise hand feature and may be able to participate via audio. If by phone, press *9 if you'd like to speak during the public comment portion. The call-in number is 1-305-224-1968 and webinar ID 842-3605-1553. Remarks including any personal attacks to anyone, including members of the administration or members of the school committee, will not be tolerated. We will have an additional public comment at the end of this meeting. So we'll start with remote first. Up first, we're going to kick it off with Sarah Combs. Sarah, just give me a quick sound check, and we're going to do 3 minutes per speaker.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sarah Combs, and I am speaking as a Framingham Public School parent and as an ally to the Framingham Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Over the past several weeks, CPAC had the opportunity to engage with special education staff across the district to understand their lived reality in the classrooms and the impact proposed cuts will have for them and our children. We believe it is important to amplify their voices. What we recognized in these exchanges is that there is a consistent set of patterns that describe increased workload, reduced capacity, and growing worry about students' needs being met. Here are the themes that we heard most often. 1. Assistants are essential to student learning. Quote, I cannot begin to share my appreciation for the special education assistants in my building. My classroom includes 8 students on IEPs, some of whom are dual identified ELL as well. I would never be able to meet all of my students' individual learning needs without help from a team of special education assistants. If Framingham thinks the level of student support will be the same with fewer assistants, and that the general educators and special educators can pick up all of the slack, then Framingham is sorely mistaken. And quote, reducing these positions would significantly impact our ability to support students safely and effectively. I would not be able to run my classroom as successfully without the support of my assistants. Theme 2, inclusion and safety depend on staffing. Quote, it would limit inclusion opportunities, compromise student and staff safety, and directly affect student success. 3, staff are already stretched beyond capacity. Quote, since January, my caseload has increased by approximately 20 students across 2 schools. Quote, existing staff were unable to support their assigned caseloads. Number 4, services are already at risk. Quote, many students' IEP mandated minutes were not consistently met, leaving students without services to which they are entitled. And quote, our float aides support academics, specials, inclusion, and behavior across classrooms, often stepping in for students without dedicated staffing in Gen Ed. Eliminating this position removes that extra layer of support, and children pay the price. These quotes come from the adults who are supporting our most vulnerable students every day. We should be protecting them, not stretching them thinner. I personally attended the Joint Budget Committee meeting last week on Zoom, and my understanding from that meeting is that the city has over $15 million in free cash that has not already been earmarked to cover other rising expenses. The city can afford to fully fund special educational services. Thank you.
Thank you. In person, we have Chris Mulroney.
Good evening. We all know that enrollment in the Framingham Public Schools has declined. Too often, that decline drives a conversation about staffing that focuses on ratios and minimum requirements. Tonight, I want to be very clear. There is a difference between staffing for compliance and staffing for student success. And FPS has committed in its strategic plan to do the latter. While we have fewer students overall, the complexity and intensity of students' needs have not decreased, particularly for students with disabilities and multilingual learners. These students are explicitly named in the FPS strategic plan as priority populations, and equity for them is not achieved by meeting minimum staffing formulas. It's achieved through intentional, well-researched support. MCAS and Access are key measures of our district's success. They do not measure whether we complied with staffing requirements. They measure whether students made meaningful progress. Lower enrollment gives us a strategic opportunity to align staffing with FPS goals by providing more intensive, targeted instruction, reducing barriers to access, and ensuring educators have the time to deliver high-quality, individualized support. Staffing for compliance asks, are we meeting the minimum? Staffing for success asks, do educators have what they need to move student learning forward? FPS's commitment to inclusive practices, high-quality instruction, and closing achievement gap requires the second question to guide your decisions. I urge the committee to closely examine the caseloads and schedules of educators serving special education students and multilingual learners and to protect those positions. These roles must be structured intentionally to support growth, progress monitoring, and meaningful intervention, not just coverage. Fewer students does not mean less responsibility. If we align staffing decisions to FPS's strategic goals, this moment gives us our strongest opportunity to deliver on equity and student success. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next online, we have Poppy Chancery. Can you give us a quick sound check, and I'll start your clock for 3 minutes?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, yep, go ahead, thank you.
สวัสดีค่ะดิฉันชื่อนางสาวชลพิชาจันทร์ศรีดิฉันเป็นคุณครูจากโรงเรียน Fuller Middle School ฉันเป็นครูสอนภาษาอังกฤษเป็นภาษาที่2หรือ ESL ภาษาอังกฤษไม่ใช่ภาษาแรกของดิฉันค่ะและก็ไม่ใช่ภาษาแรกของนักเรียนหลายๆคนเช่นกัน This is what my ESL students, especially at level 1 and 2, hear every day in school, in classroom and in everyday life. Many of my students carry not only beautiful stories and rich backgrounds, but also diversity that strengthens our school community. One of the greatest privileges of being an ESL teacher is witnessing students' resilience. They are not only learning a new language, they are learning academic content at the same time. Some are brand new to this country. On top of learning English, adjusting to a new home, and navigating a new culture, they're also expected to learn grade level content. Despite these challenges, they show up to school every day. They tackle assignments, learn math, social studies, write essays, and learn yet another language. As ESL teachers, we do more than teaching language. We teach students how to interact with peers, how to advocate for themselves, and how to navigate life in a new country. A few weeks ago, in our 6th grade social studies class on ancient Egypt, students were asked if you could choose 6 items to bring to afterlife like the pharaohs, what would you bring? The items needed to represent who they are as a person. One of our newcomers drew a picture of a building. When I asked, he said one word: school. He loves coming to school so much that he wanted to bring it with him to the afterlife so he could continue learning. That means we are all going to the afterlife. This is resilience. This is the outcome of the seeds that we have cultivated. In our school, we also see students whose English is their first language sitting with the multilingual learners, eating lunch together. We see them laugh together, play soccer, and help each other in the classrooms. Our inclusive community makes everyone feel like they belong. Before I end, I want to share a quote that I live by and teach my students every day. Language is a tool for communication, not a measurement of intelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Up next, it looks like Eleanor Giovannucci and Courtney Varga. Are you speaking together? Yeah. Okay, so we have Eleanor Giovannucci and Courtney Varga. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eleanor, 4th generation Framingham resident, so.
District
4.
District 4 is what she said. I'm Courtney Varga. I am an ESL teacher at Framingham Fuller Middle School. I've been teaching there for 9 years. I acknowledge your courage and commitment for being here to work together to achieve a fair school budget for the children of Framingham. I have a few things that I want us to examine that I feel have been underrepresented. Let us examine teacher salaries. What other jobs require master's degrees but pay so little? With the level of education we are required to have by DESE, our lifetime earnings decreased by almost $1 million than other fields, such as engineering. And also, do you believe in the human right of paid parental leave? We do not have them. Do you believe all people should have paid family medical leave? We do not have them. potentially asking us to pay more for healthcare while simultaneously denying us the benefits that most employees in Massachusetts have is, put simply, not okay. Our passion and dedication to our jobs should not come at the continuous sacrifice of our rights and well-being. So I will not discuss which jobs should be cut, but rather discuss the history and usage of the local contributions. Let me be clear. The local contributions are not about enrollment numbers. The local contributions during this administration have never been based on enrollment numbers. I also have a QR code that I can pass out for these slides so everyone can see them. I also want to examine the promise of your elected officials. In 2021, mergers of school and city facility departments were discussed in order to save costs. Despite that promise, the mayor and superintendent have not presented us with any finding from looking into it. This year, it was presented as a novel idea, when in reality, it was discussed over 5 years ago. And let us examine the history of our local contributions. As evidenced by the poster depicting data from mass.gov and DESE, our budget does not align with student numbers. When the mayor came into office, we had 800 more students, and yet the local contributions were slashed that year, right here. That was the post-pandemic years, when students needed the most support recovering from educational insufficiency of remote learning. Yes, we were given federal and state funds for educational support, such as the Student Opportunity Act, which I voted for. But this money was intended as an addition, not a replacement for local contributions. The local contributions during this critical time to provide interventions, instead of going to the schools, was put in the city's financial accounts to build capital. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, nope, other one, this one. Got it.
Sorry.
As well as decreasing the tax levy to under the healthy amount that the Massachusetts government recommends.
We have about 15 seconds left.
People of Framingham, your local government has been sacrificing resources for your children's education in order to make the city wealthy. The $8 million gap is not due to enrollment. It is due to continual slashes of local contributions to education. Let us not further divide ourselves by debating which jobs will be cut, but rather point the spotlight on the mayor and the city's council use of local contributions. We should not shortchange the next generation with short-term gains. Regardless of enrollment numbers, now is the time to ensure the local contributions find their way to the local children, the local schools, the local future. Thank you.
Okay.
If anyone wants
You want to just leave it at the table? We can pick it up later. Thank you. All right, up next online we have Taylor Arcuri. Can you just give us a quick sound check and then we will start the clock?
Yep, can you hear me?
We can, yes, thank you.
Okay. My name is Taylor Arcuri, and I'm the student support and restoration teacher at Fuller Middle School, and I am asking you to reconsider the support and continue the funding of the restoration teacher positions across the middle schools. Restorative justice is a proactive alternative to punitive discipline that teaches students skills that foster empathy, accountability, and how to build stronger relationships with adults and peers. As I sat in the previous school committee meetings on this matter, I could not help but think about all the students and families that I work with, how I have impacted them. Many of the students and families I serve in this role would not be among those who would show up to a school committee meeting to defend themselves or defend how this role has helped them. Many of the students and families I serve are the families that need the most support from this district. At Fuller Middle School, it is my job to uphold our Code of Character Conduct Matrix and teach students to use skillful behavior. It is also my job to teach them restorative interventions and social, emotional, and behavioral skills that they will carry with them through the rest of their educational career and into adulthood. Before I took on this role, students would receive a punitive consequence that most often looked like sitting quietly with no reflection, learning, or accountability being taken for their actions. Suspension and conduct referral rates were astronomical before this position was created and showed outrageous racial inequity in our district. I was one of the first middle school restoration teachers that the district hired, and I helped pilot this role. I built it out to what it is today. I created curriculum and materials that are now used throughout the district in all 3 middle schools and the high school. This work in this role is fundamental to Fuller and our district priorities. The ground we are built on is rooted in restoration. If the school committee agrees to eliminate this position, the need of the students will continue to grow while the resources available to help these issues are reduced. The imperative need for restoration will still exist, and the restorative process would fall on the administrators and other support staff in the schools. Framingham Public Schools has tried this model before, and the data shows that the interventions were not implemented with fidelity, and the student outcomes remain unchanged. Interventions provided by the restoration teacher on a daily basis would not occur. What would that mean for our students? What would that mean for our families? And what would it mean for the future of Framingham? In a country where there is so much uncertainty, unrest, and lack of safety, and lack of skills being taught and modeled by our government down, please do not take away a position that teaches our students the skills that they really need, gives them support that they long for, and gives them a safe place away from home where they know they have a teacher that really cares. This role directly helps us disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline, and for some of our students, that is a reality. This room, this program, and the restorative practices have helped dramatically lower the number of discipline referrals, escalated behaviors, unskillful behaviors, and suspensions, as well as disciplinary actions in our schools. It has helped mend relationships, grow and foster relationships between adults, students, and caregivers, and has helped students and staff take accountability and repair harm. This position has truly become the glue that can hold our community and school together. Thank you.
Thank you. In person, we have Drayden Maskell.
Good evening. My name is Drayden from District 7, and I'm back again because Newsies taught me that sometimes kids have to stand up to be heard. In Newsies, they talk about carrying the banner, and that's what our students are trying to do right now. Stand up for our schools. I know budgets are hard, and I know you must be responsible with your money, but I keep wondering, with such a large budget gap, why are adults fighting the city harder for the funding students need? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Schools are not businesses. In a company, you cut things to save money, but schools are supposed to help kids learn, grow, feel supported. That's not something you can measure like profit. When schools cut staffs, students lose real people who help us every day, and programs matter because every student is different, and being in theater and chorus helped me build confidence and teamwork, and the courage to speak in front of adults like this. Because of those experiences and the teachers who supported me, I worked hard and was accepted into the MMEA Eastern District Junior Choir last week, and I've grown just as much this year on stage and theater. In Newsies, the kids learn to stand together and speak up when something isn't fair. That's what students are trying to do now. Use our voices to stand up for our education. If cuts have to happen, they shouldn't come from the people who work closely with students. If anything, they should come from the places where students feel it the least. Even if that means more work at the central office. That might be the business way. But schools should always put students first. Thank you.
Up next, we have Kenneth Ham on Zoom. Can you give us a quick sound check?
Hi, this is Ken. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Ken Ham. I have been a part of the Cameron Middle School community since 2001. Over the last 2 decades, I've served our students as a 7th grade science teacher and assistant principal, and most recently as a restoration interventionist. Having seen our school from every angle, the classroom, the main office, and the restoration room, I'm here to advocate for the reinstatement of this vital role. Traditional discipline tells a student what they did wrong. Restorative practices show them how to make it right. While suspensions merely remove the student from the building, they don't fix the root cause. They focus on accountability and skill building. We keep students in the classroom and address the why behind the behavior before it escalates. This strengthens understanding and behavioral expectations and keeps students connected to learning and community, reducing the need for exclusionary discipline. Suspensions remove students from instructional time, increasing the risk of academic failure, disengagement, and future discipline involvement. Restorative approaches keep students in school, help increase equity, and preserve instructional access. Restorative interventions help students develop empathy, conflict resolution skills, and stronger relationships with peers and staff. When students feel understood, valued, and responsible for their choices, they are less likely to re-engage in conduct that would trigger suspension. Eliminating this position does not eliminate the work. It simply shifts it to the assistant principals who are already managing the complexities of a middle school building. By reinstating a dedicated restoration interventionist, we ensure there is a qualified professional whose sole focus is the long-term behavioral growth of our students, allowing administrators to remain fully focused on the essential operations of the school. In conclusion, restorative work effectively prevents student suspensions by addressing the underlying cause of misbehavior instead of merely reacting to symptoms. These practices allow educators to help students build the essential skills and relationships necessary to reduce future incidents. This approach fosters a more positive school climate and strengthens the sense of connection for all members of the academic community. Ultimately, we must value student growth over convenience to ensure our restorative work actually changes lives instead of becoming just another routine. I recognize that we are facing extremely difficult decisions as you work through significant budget cuts, and I appreciate the seriousness of that responsibility. Tonight, I'm asking you to view the restoration interventionist position not as an added expense, but as a cost-saving investment in student success and school stability. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to do one more in person, and then the rest will be for our second portion of public comment. Tiffany Maskell.
Thank you, Tiffany Maskell, District 7. Good evening, members of the school committee. You just heard from my son, Drayden. I'm super proud of him. But more importantly, I hope that you truly heard what he's saying. Students are telling you that the people and programs in their schools matter deeply to them. This budget gap is real, and I understand enrollment changes can mean some staffing adjustments over time. But those decisions should be guided by class size and student learning needs, not by cutting the very supports that help students succeed. When we reduce staff who work directly with students, kids lose support, attention, and relationships that help them grow. Before more student-facing positions are reduced, there needs to be serious reflection on staffing and spending at the central office level. Students should feel cuts last, not first. It is especially concerning to see cuts to DEI work. In a diverse community like ours, this work is essential. It helps students feel safe, respected, and like they belong. When students don't feel seen or valued, their ability to learn suffers. Our district's own slogan is embracing differences, inspiring futures. That's exactly what DEI work is about. Cutting it seems to send a message that those values are optional. They are not. Drayden said schools are not businesses. He's right. Businesses can cut their way to balance. Schools can't cut without children feeling it. These are real kids with real futures in your classrooms every day. You represent our students. Please make sure that your votes do. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next agenda topic. We have announcements from the chair. So superintendent's evaluation workshop for members is scheduled for March 5th. And then additionally, City Council voted in favor of exercising the budget deadline and has extended our budget deadline to submit. Following that is the mayor's update. So I will turn it over to Mayor Sisitsky.
Thank you. But you just gave my report. I was going to advise everybody that last night the City Council, with my agreement, voted to declare a budget emergency and invoked a section of the new charter that allows an extension of time to prepare the budget and submit it by, they voted for a 30-day extension. So all the dates that we had in our calendar can be extended by 30 days. And we're going to take advantage of that opportunity, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect your deliberations, but you have that new possibility now to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor at this time? What's that? No. Seeing none, we'll move on. We're going to go to the Student Advisory Committee presentation, student feedback on school policies 2025 to 2026. I'll turn it over to our Student Advisory Chair, Deborah Davitoria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us tonight. We're going to present some key insights that we got from our student feedback survey on policies that were introduced last year. But before we dive into these findings, I would like to give my fellow Student Advisory Committee members a chance to present and introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chloe. I'm a senior at Framingham High School.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jolene, and I'm a sophomore at the Framingham High School.
Hello, I'm Ibrahim Lari, and I am a sophomore at FHS.
All right. Next slide, please. To give some brief explanation on how the data was collected, a survey was sent directly to all student emails during an advisory period in early December. I also want to note that because the survey was not sent during an extended advisory, that likely contributed to a lower response rate. The survey was then also offered in Spanish and Portuguese. The Portuguese version was translated by me and reviewed by Portuguese teacher Ms. Pinjator, and the Spanish version was translated by AP Spanish volunteer Rain Dabrush. In total, 467 students responded, and all questions were left optional, so students only answered questions that they felt comfortable with, which ensured that our data reflected honest responses. Next slide, please. For some context, last year, FHS implemented several updated school procedures, including a revised cell phone policy, along with the e-hall pass system. Under the cell phone policy, teachers are expected to require students to keep their phones put away, either in their backpack or in designated calculator wall holders, commonly referred to as phone holders or phone hotels. And the e-hall pass system is an electronic pass that students are required to use when moving throughout the building anytime outside of the scheduled class transition times. And after a full year of these policies being in place, the goal of the survey was to give students an opportunity to share feedback on how these procedures are actually working in practice and to pass that feedback along to the administration. Next slide, please. Looking at who responded, participation was strongest among the underclassmen, with freshmen and sophomores making up the largest share of responses. Junior and senior classes had a lower participation rate. But overall, 467 students participated, representing about 21% of the student body. Next slide, please. One of the first questions on the survey was what students believed FHS did best. Across all three surveys, free meals consistently ranked among the top 3 strengths, and what students believed FHS did best, and was followed by a majority of students who said that the variety of different classes was also among the school's strengths. Next slide. We then asked students how consistently the cell phone policy had been implemented in their classes, and no student reported that the cell phone policy was implemented by none of their teachers. And compared to last year, when the cell phone policy was first introduced and students were asked this question, implementation clearly increased, and in the English survey, reported implementation rose from 55.5% to 88.7%, an increase of about 33.2 percentage points. And this trend also extended to the Portuguese survey with a 22.1 percentage increase. So overall, this just shows stronger and more consistent implementation of the policy across classrooms this year. And now I'll pass it to Chloe.
Next slide, please. Thank you. So the next question was, how did you learn about the cell phone policy? And as you can see from this bar graph in the green, the majority of students responded that the cell phone policy, they learned about the cell phone policy from their teacher or advisory teacher. Next slide. The next question asks, do you think the cell phone policy has benefited your academic performance? And the overwhelming majority of students reported that this cell phone policy had neither benefited or harmed their academic performance. Next slide. And then the next question asks, is the e-hall pass policy consistent among your classes? And the overwhelming majority of students responded that all of their teachers had implemented the e-hall pass in their classes.
So the next question is about how students receive their school-wide updates, and overwhelmingly a lot of students said that email is where they get their school-wide updates, which makes sense because it's easy to access. Every student has a school email, so they can easily access updates. And compared to something like teachers, sometimes students might not hear teachers, or sometimes teachers forget to even mention school-wide updates, so email seems to be the most reliable source. Next slide. So we asked a question about the open house and how did it meet expectations. And out of the students that did attend the open house, most of them said it was somewhat effective or mostly effective, which shows that there can be some improvement done, obviously, because not a lot of people put very effective, and some put even not effective at all. And one other thing I did want to point out is that there is an overwhelming majority of people who did not attend, which is something to note down and potentially try and improve attendance. Next slide. So here are some of the comments from the open response of what is the impact of being late to class. And there's a lot of different ideas and different beliefs from people. And some people seem to believe that, oh, there's no effect. Some people think to believe that, it's just like, oh, I miss out on some class instruction. Some people think they just failed the class immediately. So one thing that needs to be done is it needs to be made more clear, like what happens when you're actually tardy, what happens when you're actually like cutting a class, and make it more clear on what the consequences are. Now I'll be handing it over to Chloe.
The next open response question asked about additional ideas or suggestions that students might have about the open house experience. And a lot of students responded that it was hard for their parents to find teachers, and that they liked the original open house where students and parents had to go to classes instead of the cafeteria because they found it was confusing to find people. And yeah, that was pretty much what people said.
The next question we asked in our survey is, in what ways does the absence of your peers in class affect your personal experience in school? About half of our response resulted in students saying they aren't affected by peers' absences. The other half's response resulted in how absence of peers impacts students' school experience, especially with classwork and group projects. Across the English, Spanish, and Portuguese survey, a significant portion of the students' absenteeism disrupted collaboration and made workloads harder to complete. This indicates how peers' attendance plays an important role in how students learn and share responsibility. Next slide, please. The next question we asked was, what supports could the school provide to help you get to school every day on time? A large portion of students said that better access to transportation, especially getting help learning how to use the free MWRTA transportation, would help reduce lateness. The other portions of the students felt that recognition for consistent on-time attendance would motivate students to show up more regularly on time. Overall, the data suggests that both practical support, like transportation help, and motivational strategies, like acknowledgement of student consistent efforts, could improve students' attendance. And I'm going to bring it back to Deborah.
So overall, the data shows that the implementation of the phone policy and the e-hall pass system has been very consistent. Nearly all students across all surveys, the English, Portuguese, and Spanish survey, have reported that the phone policy is being applied more consistently, and almost all teachers are fully using the e-hall pass system. Students continue to receive information from a diverse pool of sources, and students demonstrate varying understandings on what the attendance policy is. There's room for improvement on consistency of understanding of the policy. And when it comes to reducing lateness, a majority of students pointed out to positive supports like incentives or recognition for good attendance, as well as extra support on using the free MWRTA transportation system. And while the numbers for the Spanish and Portuguese surveys are low, we're still getting a diverse student body population answering these surveys. And that's what we have for tonight. And before we end the presentation, I would also like to ask if there was anything the committee would like for us to look into, either ask students or any situations or things we should explore as a committee and get feedback from students on. Thank you.
Great report. That was great. We have a couple of questions, and then thank you for your report, everyone. You did a great job. Go ahead, Mr. Robles, you're up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you. This is phenomenal work, and the analysis and the way you're presenting it, very clear, so thank you. They're very concise. I had a couple of questions where I noticed that different populations just had big differences in how they answer this question. What caught my eye, number one, was how well did this year's open house meet your needs? Those who didn't, who answer in English, 33%, but then a huge jump for those who answer in Spanish. They found the open house, as a positive thing, 65%. In Portuguese, 50%. Any ideas or insights that you may have in the differences between populations here?
I can't overgeneralize my opinions, but from my own experience as a Brazilian student, I can say that it could be a cultural thing. I know that it's very common for there to be a lot of connection between student and teacher, and that's just how it is culturally in Brazil. And I know that for a lot of these students that come here, and they seek that same connection, and they find that same connection for Portuguese or Spanish teachers or teachers that teach that body of students. So that could be one of the reasons. Yeah, I would also like to ask if the other members have something to add on it. But from my experiences and from the people from my friends and other people from the school that I talked to with, I think that would be one of the reasons why, but yeah. I'm also not sure, and I can't overgeneralize my opinion, but yeah.
I understand, yeah, we will be reading between the lines here. Last piece here, what could help you get to school? And what caught my eye is those who answer in Spanish said, about 52% of them said, if you can help me understand public transportation, that would really help me. Any plans on putting something together to help, there are different needs here to help students get to school?
Yeah, in the past we've had surveys where we asked about communication and where students are actually getting their information from. And there is definitely a gap between students that speak other languages other than English. There's already a gap in English-speaking students, but the gap is even greater for Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and Spanish students. So I think that's definitely something that we can brainstorm as a council, but I think one of the main things is reaching out to the community and asking what they think is the best way to reach out to them and the best way that they can be supported when it comes to communication, which is something that we could include in one of our next surveys. That's some insight that I have from some previous surveys, but that's definitely something that we need to ask the community.
Thank you. And also we can partner, with our administrators to send communications to parents. How do you use public transportation? Seems to be a helpful thing. Thank you.
Ms. Dyer.
Thank you for that presentation, and I'm going to follow up on Mr. Robles' question just a little bit. I'm curious if you have any understanding about what incentives or recognition students are looking for improved attendance, or if you've thought about how to figure that piece out.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting at the high school level that they would be looking for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's also something worth reaching out to the community for. And just like having places where students could just brainstorm ideas and put what they believe would be best. But one thing that has worked, we have done, especially for the Metro West survey, one of the things that they did was gift cards. That was one of the incentives for students to take the survey. And I talked to one of the people that actually won. They said that was an incentive for them to actually take the survey in the first place. So that's an idea. But yeah, would you guys like to add on something?
I think having it during extended advisory could definitely help, because I know that a lot of upperclassmen get to school a little bit later than when the bell rings. So having extended advisory would give them extra time to actually sit down and take the survey, and could maybe increase number of upperclassmen that take the survey. That's an idea.
I agree with what Chloe said, especially I know a lot of peers that are late to class sometimes, so extending advisory to 8 or even 8:10 would help a lot to put more feedback on students opinions to the survey, and yeah.
Yeah, just kind of echoing what Chloe and Jolene said. Yeah, sort of just extending advisory, and especially I feel personally I've seen a lot of upperclassmen, especially they're late to classes or advisory and whatnot, so extended advisory would definitely be very useful.
Thank you, Mr. Freudberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellent presentation. And to answer your specific question about future surveys, I thought you should have some feedback on that. I think that the cell phone question is one great one that gives you a baseline of how it's being seen as being implemented. But if the state law passes that is currently before the legislature, there'll be a formal need for this committee to actually draft a written policy beyond what is in the handbook. And so I think that's an opportunity for continued engagement about what specifically should be in that policy, both for your school and the other levels. And then other thoughts too could be, there's been some great past surveys, including one I remember that former co-chairs Rose and Nick did a few years ago, and son Nick, when he was here, about sleep and mental health and school start times. And I think a potential refresh of that from a few years ago that I think has been done once before since then would also help me out as we consider ways to best support the school. Thank you.
Thanks. And also, just to add on to that too, so it's interesting that legislation that's coming up on a bell-to-bell cell phone ban. So it sounds like classroom teachers are pretty consistent with how they're handling cell phones with the holders. That seems to be consistent, which is good. And then my understanding is sort of still in the hallways in the cafeteria, that would be kind of an open space for you to access your personal device, right? I think since you asked for feedback, I think the point that Ms. Dyer made on attendance incentives would be helpful for us. But then also, too, if there's any opportunity for you to ask how students feel about the cell phone policy. So as a high school teacher, I have a cell phone holder in my classroom, and it seems they're so reluctant to put their phone in, and it seems like they're just being forced to do it. But then part of me almost thinks that they like it, and that part of me, I see them interact, I see them start to laugh and enjoy their peers' company, and I'm just wondering if there's any kind kind of data behind that. So I would be curious to know a little bit more if you have an opportunity to poll people again. And then obviously we're always trying to look for ways to improve attendance, and that seems to be one of our challenges in our district. So I would be concerned with those two pieces. If you could have any insight with that, report back to us at any time, and feel free, if it's not a formal presentation, just feel free to email us as well. Anyone else before we move on from this topic? Go ahead.
One more point is later tonight we're voting on our rules and liaisons. This is where I think a school committee liaison is very helpful to work with the administration and the students and their advisory team of the staff together, because it's not all on you to implement this, right? You know, it's not on you to communicate the MWRTA, but it's on you to tell us that there's a gap there, and that's where I think this team can really be helpful. So keep this great insight coming to us. Thank you. And let us know if you're getting what you need from the adults who can help make this possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your work in this presentation and for joining us tonight. Do you have any questions for us before we move on to our next topic? All right, well, great work. Yeah, great work. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Next up, we will go to the superintendent's update. I'll turn it over to Dr. Tremblay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the students for your great presentation this evening. It was excellent. And I want to, before I have my other items on the agenda, I wanted to just comment on the MWRTA portion of the suggestion. Interestingly, as it turns out, I have a meeting coming up with a new position that the MWRTA has. It's their Manager of Travel Training and Community Outreach. I have that meeting on March 4th in my calendar. Happy to talk with, hearing what you shared tonight, and whether we can offer maybe some Zoom community opportunities available in multiple languages so that families can understand how to navigate the bus system. I do see a lot of our students, it is free, continues to be a free service. I see many of our students that use that every day. So happy to be a partner with you on getting the word out and helping families understand how that can work, getting to our schools. So I'm happy to report back to you on that. So thanks for raising that. Moving into my updates for this evening, I have several, and some of this will be shared with some of my colleagues. The first, as the committee knows, is the presentation and first reading of the 26-27 school year calendar. This is a much anticipated event every year. Everyone wants to know the first day, the last day of school. I want to just also acknowledge many of members of the calendar planning committee are in the room tonight, so they're way in the back over there, so heads down. But we have had a lot of good input over the years, and this calendar committee came together. Amy Kane, my executive assistant, was leading the charge on that, so thanks to Amy. And I know that Ann Ludis was also a big part of that work as well. Just a few points about this. The team collaborated to balance several factors in this calendar, including contractual and state-mandated learning hours, school schedules, caregiver outreach, as was included in the packet, student screenings. This is the initial screenings for placements that happen in our earlier childhood settings, and then professional development. There are no changes to the observed holidays in this calendar. Professional development, delayed starts, caregiver conferences, and Framingham High School collaboration days remain intact and reflect the thoughtful consideration of the need for uninterrupted weeks of learning as much as possible. I know that was a significant conversation we had last year. The district will provide, as is mentioned previously, I think Mr. Freuberg mentioned this about timely reminders, so make sure that we also include timely reminders and detailed information ahead of each of the scheduled early dismissal and no school days throughout the year. Okay, well, there's a lot of information, and the calendars have been shared for this first round of your feedback, and certainly I can hear that, and between now and the second reading, happy to get additional input on that. But the major bullet points of this one: the proposed first day of school is August 31st for grades 1 through 12, given where Labor Day falls this year. Kindergarten screenings will take place on September 1st through the 3rd. Preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten will start on September 8th. Again, all holidays from this calendar are on the proposed calendar, and this calendar reflects 20 uninterrupted weeks of learning as compared to 15 in the last school year. So this is, again, a commendation to the calendar committee who put this first draft together. for your review this evening. So I'll pause there.
Can I just ask what the rationale is for the date, the 4th off?
The date of the 4th, let me pull it up.
September 4th that is.
You have it, you have it up in front of you? Sure.
I would certainly invite any members of the calendar committee to come on up and sit right here next to me if they would like to, but just nice seat right here. Comfortable arms. September 4th is the Friday before Labor Day. And so when looking at when we can have professional development days that were in a couple of things. That's the first week of school. We traditionally don't have a full week of school the first week of school. Typically, we have teachers return on the Monday and then students start on that Wednesday, so students have a 3-day school week. But trying to fit all of the days in with that Labor Day and whatnot, we pushed everything up to the week before for the teachers returning on the 26th and 27th, giving them an extra day of a weekend before school starts, or if they wanted more time to prepare their classrooms, they of course could come in on their own time if they so chose. But we also have a mandatory, a PD day that requires mandatory trainings, annual mandatory trainings required by federal or state and DESE regulations. And so looking at having, that's usually an asynchronous self-paced professional development day. And so our thought was having that day available on the Friday before a long holiday weekend might be more convenient for families if they're planning long weekends or getaways, and also to support teachers kind of being able to do their asynchronous work prior to the long weekend.
Thank you for the clarification. So that's a teacher work day, but it's a no school day.
Correct. It's a professional
But
development
an
day.
asynchronous, do it your own.
It's virtual, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We made an effort to move the professional development days to the front end of the school year, as opposed to having them throughout the year. Just that gives the most time for training on.
Can I add one other? Typically, at least this year, I believe, and anybody can correct me if I have this inaccurate, that day was on the primary election day this year, that virtual asynchronous mandatory training day, but that election day is September 1st, which really made things very challenging for us trying to start the school year with a September 1st primary election day. So we made that a school day and instead put the mandatory training day on the Friday.
There also is an election day that's off in November.
In November, but that's the what do you call the
FTA
general
day, or-
election?
oh.
Yeah, there's the primary elections in September, and then the bigger election with historically a greater turnout in November.
So there's no school on election day, and that's another PD day.
That is correct.
Right.
It is so to be totally clear, you'll also notice that November 3rd, it's a professional development day for the middle school and the high school, but for the preschool, pre-K, that's the P, and the E for elementary, it's parent conference day. We also staggered the parent conferences, the caregiver conferences, because we found this year having all of the conferences, the caregiver conferences on the same days, put a real strain on our ability to have interpreters available. So by staggering them, we'll better be able to accommodate the need for interpreters.
Okay. I don't want to hog the mic, but I do want to just go on record saying that I'm not in support of the 4th. I feel like my constituents are not vacationing on that weekend. They need consistency, connection, routine, meals, trusted adults, that kind of thing. Did you have your hand up, Rich? Oh, Mr. Freudberg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your comments there. That's something that I wasn't really fully tracking and considering, so thank you for that. And thank you as well to the Calendar Committee for your work here. My specific comments are on one start of the school year gap and one end of the school year gap. The end of the school year, we usually have the graduation date and the graduation rain date listed. Could we please add that back in to be consistent? I'm seeing some nodding. Thank you. And then at the start of the school year, this is new, but this will come to no surprise, as I said it multiple times back in August and September. Bus assignments should be committed to by a certain date. I care about putting that on the schedule. I also believe that the bus assignments should not be on a Friday, because there needs to be customer service availability as soon as those emails come out over the coming days. So If you look at another in-house community, they did August 8th. That would be a big jump from last year's August 20-something, but I do want us to consider before this calendar is adopted at our meeting in 3 weeks, insisting as a committee that there is a specific date where bus assignments will be published by, and that the date cannot be on a Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Ms. Moshe.
Thank you. I had some of the same concerns. The PD day on the 4th was a concern, wondering why we can't put that into the 28th and make our last day of school the 17th. If we have no snow days, obviously, but if we put our last day on the 17th, it's 2 days we're not opening the building, we're not busing, we're not doing any of those things. And that was, of course, somebody else already brought it up, but also, is there a way to note on here the days that buses will be delayed? Like if kids have a PM collab, if the bus is delayed that morning? Because a lot of parents ask, is there busing today? Is there busing today? Is there busing today? I see that a lot, and I get that a lot. If we can maybe put on the calendar somewhere in a key, somewhere to let us know what days busing will be delayed for school start delays. Also, Adam brought up the graduation. It was one of the things I was going to ask, if we can add the proposed graduation date. Can we also add the last day for seniors on the calendar? Or the proposed last day? That was all I had for the calendar. Thank you.
Can I just respond to one piece? So I believe when you're talking about the busing delays, you're talking about the delayed starts for access testing and MCAS. The access testing dates are on there in January. It's the 11th and 12th for the high school and the 13th and 14th of January for the middle schools. MCAS dates are not on there yet because those dates haven't been set by the state.
Right, but if we can put somewhere in the key that there'll be delayed busing, that busing will be available for those days, but it's not, you're not at your bus stop at 6:30 in the morning those days.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Moshe, could you, on the first point you made, help me understand the 4th to the 28th? Say that one more time for me, if you don't mind.
If we take the PD, if the 4th, there's no school, it's just a day for people to be in the building if that's what they choose to do. Otherwise, it's a 4-day weekend.
Well, it's a professional development day, so there's training for staff that day.
Can we change that to the 28th?
The 28th of August,
Yes.
which is also a,
Not a PD day, it's just a
oh,
no-school
it's not a
day.
no-school day.
And then we have another full week, and we get 21 weeks of uninterrupted education. And that would make our last day of school the 17th, because the 18th is Juneteenth.
I'm trying to listen to the peanut gallery over there. Let's take this back as feedback.
Sarah, you can come up here and speak too if you want. You don't have to.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Guernsey.
Okay, I've done this. Hi. Sarah Guernsey, I'm a teacher at Walsh Middle School. We talked about this a lot. Yes, ideally ending before Juneteenth would be the dream. We are sort of tempting fate if we end literally the day before Juneteenth, because we'll have a snow day, and it will push us later. The issue with having that PD day be the 28th and having school on the 4th, it means the first week of school is 5 days, which in our experience is a lot for kids. We did that once, I don't know, at some point in my 30 million years. And it's a lot for kids. And if that's what you decide you want to do, then we'll make it work. But it's a lot for kids to have 5 days of school in the first week. That was the rationale for it.
Thank you for that feedback.
Okay, any more? Mr. Lewis?
Not necessarily specific to this calendar, but I know that some parents have reached out asking and been wondering about the first day of school. I would love if we could get into a routine of either affirming the calendar earlier in our process or working on a couple calendars out. I know the holidays are pretty static, and the PD days are agreed to, so I think it would just be helpful if, for parents, especially parents looking for camp registrations and things that opened really early in the new year, just if we could be a little more proactive in this for their sake. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, I agree with that. I think there's an opportunity. Some districts do publish multiple years of calendars. That would be great to, I mean, I think we have gotten to a point where, depending on what kind of feedback we have tonight, with a fairly consistent calendar that we can sort of plug and play year to year. I think once we get to, it's been widely different year to year in the past. So I think once we get to a consistency, we can probably do a forecasting of multiple years out. I think we can at least try to get there. So I do hear you, and I'm sure people do want to know. My reservation, as you know from our earlier communication, was putting a date out there, and that date, people booking vacations, and then all of a sudden the date changing, and now we've created a tremendous amount of upset. But I take your point. Thank you. Okay, hearing nothing else on that, if there are other members or community input that want to share back, feel free to reach out directly. We'll put this on the next school committee agenda for a second reading, and we'll make some adjustments based on the feedback that we've heard tonight. Thank you all for the feedback, and to the calendar committee who put this together. Unless there's anything else, I'll move on to the next item. Okay. The next item under my report is the Code of Conduct, Character and Support, and Student Behavior Update. Courtney Balacco, who's joined us on screen, will provide a sort of a summary of the memo that was provided to the school committee in the packet on what's happening in our schools relative to our code and student behaviors. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Tremblay, and thank you to the committee for the opportunity to provide the update this evening. So we have really been focused on strengthening consistent implementation of the code, as well as expanding our prevention and intervention systems so that we can improve response to and decrease behavioral challenges across schools. As Dr. Tremblay mentioned, I did provide a more detailed update in the memo, which you should have in your packet, but I'll do my best to provide an overview of the key findings and initiatives that we've undertaken and answer any questions that committee members may have. First and foremost, student behaviors, of course, remain a concern. Like many districts across the state and the country, for that matter, we're continuing to see higher levels of behavioral challenges than we did many years ago. The reality is that children and their families are living through very different stressors in their lives and in the world around them right now. Than they had previously, and behavior is one manifestation of the impact of those stressors and what students and their families are experiencing. And so we're continuing to do work in schools to address some of the challenges and support students and their caregivers with this. Overall, as compared to the previous year, we have seen a decline in our conduct referrals, conduct incidents, and specifically when you're looking at reporting our exclusionary discipline rates. So we've seen a decrease substantially in our out of school suspension and in school suspension. More so, in school suspension has gone from 3.7 to about 2.1%. Out of school suspension still is a little bit stable, went from 3.3% down to 3%. So more work needed to do to reduce the higher impact incidents, as well as some of the exclusionary discipline practices. So the work continues there. A primary area of focus for us has been improving consistency of implementation of the code across all of our buildings. We had received some feedback from teachers and from caregivers with concerns around consistency within schools and across schools. And so we've been working to provide some retraining around the code, implementation of consequences and restorative interventions with our administrators, and also myself and our Director of Health and Wellness provide real-time consultation to school leaders to strengthen consistent decision-making and alignment to the code across incidents. We've also worked to provide our bus drivers with training to equip them with strategies to manage conduct incidents on buses. And we've been working with last year and into this year support for administrators in implementing consequences and interventions consistently for bus behavior challenges as well. And more recently this year, we've begun partnering with the Department of Expanded Learning Time to also align across out-of-school time activities and response there. And we're working to align the code with a set of consequences and interventions for out-of-school time as well. So we're looking at that actively right now. We are continuing what we started last year through a discipline response cycle process across our schools. Our district coordinator of MTSS and our district behavioral health coordinator meet with school teams regularly to review building level conduct data, interventions that can be implemented, and then identify areas of targeted support, whether that's consistency of implementing an intervention or a system or student-specific support. Our restorative practices training has been a big focus. Last year and into this year, we've intentionally focused on expanding those practices and shifting culture so that we're building staff capacity so that restorative approaches show up across daily routines and responses, not just in a designated restoration space, although equally important there.
Ms. Blanco, sorry, can you just slow it just a little bit?
Sure.
I'm feeling for our interpreters who are working overtime.
Yes, I apologize. Absolutely.
No, thanks so much.
So thinking about our restorative practices training, we have provided some additional training in restorative conversations, restorative circles, and similar training for our staff in these practices, including check-in, check-out. And that work has been also led by our MTSS coordinator and her team. We provided an initial cohort of administrators and support staff training through the Suffolk University Center for Restorative Justice in training and restorative practices. This year, we received a $75,000 grant from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and we're part of a Rethinking Discipline cohort where we were identified as a district that does have higher rates of exclusionary discipline practices. So we're partnering with West Ed through that to provide coaching and professional development for leaders at the secondary level, which will begin in the near future. The goal there is around building administrators' capacity in coaching classroom educators in behavior response, but also building a restorative school culture and emphasizing restorative approaches in disciplinary response. Additionally, some of that work is going to be targeted around reducing exclusionary discipline, especially with a focus on some of our areas of disparity. We remain very concerned that those disparities do remain, notably for our multilingual learners, our students with disabilities, our students in foster care, and those that are Hispanic, Latino, and Black. So this has to be an active area of monitoring and action as a priority. Additionally, as we're moving forward this year, we're continuing to work to implement some of these discipline response cycle meetings with district administrators, continue to expand the restorative practices training with Suffolk University, implementing the coaching and professional development through West Ed for administrators and support teams. And then we're also expanding our behavioral threat assessment systems and training, which is led by our behavioral health coordinator, to better ensure that we're monitoring high-level behavioral risk to prevent acts of violence whenever possible. And then finally, we're going to continue offering virtual caregiver workshops to partner in addressing behaviors at home and school. That is a brief overview. There's a little bit more in the memo, but I'm happy to answer any questions that committee members may have.
Thanks, Courtney. Jen has a question.
Sure.
Thank you. The family partnerships, can you talk more on that? And it says they were provided. Can you talk about what was provided and how that experience was and if we think that's effective?
Sure. So last spring, one of our activities was to offer a workshop. So that was myself, our Director of Health and Wellness, and our district MTSS coordinator. And we hosted it at Fuller. It was in the evening. We provided some pizza and dinner for families who had kids, and our SEB coaches were amazing and brought activities for students so we could meet with families. And we went through what our code of conduct, character, conduct, and support really is, how it's implemented in schools, our bullying intervention and prevention process, and then talked through some strategies at home and how we need parents to partner with us and caregivers to partner with us so that we can address behaviors at home and in the community. And attendance at an evening event on, I think it was a Thursday night, can be challenging. And so we saw a small attendance group, but a decent attendance group that was recorded. And one of the strategies we're going to be looking at is implementing potentially a virtual evening as well as another method of offering so that we can see if that increases attendance and participation. And I do see our Director of Health and Wellness, Siobhan, has joined us in case there's anything else she wants to add.
Just to follow up, was that just a one-time workshop, and was it only held at Fuller?
That was the first one, yes. So that was held at Fuller. Our intent was to record it and then post it on the website. So we were working with Framingham Access Television to do that. We haven't received the recording back yet. So we have to follow up with them to get that recording. And we want to be able to put a series of these videos on the website so that families also have access to those. So if they weren't able to attend in real time, they can watch it back. So by offering it virtually in the future, we also will be able to record it so that we can keep it going for those that couldn't maybe come in real time due to work or parenting obligations. So that was the first.
And by the way, you're talking about it, was it something that was just done recently?
That first one was last spring, and we're working through a grant right now to see if we can offer a little bit of a more detailed training in the very near future. We just have to work out some of the details. The goal is to be able to offer a series of these as well. We only have offered that one so far.
Thank you. I hope that it goes beyond Fuller and goes to some of the South Side and the North Side schools, because I think it will be beneficial and not everybody can get to Fuller.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Mr. Freudberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this update. It's really great to see the 5 or so years of progress. I believe this fall will be the 5th year since the Code of Conduct was first adopted, thanks to the work of Ms. Steyer and so many others from back then over the years. I just want to raise, and this is not aimed at the presenters on Zoom at all, just the disconnect I see between some of this great success and the specific budget proposal that we are going to be talking about probably more next meeting than tonight when it comes to the 4 restoration interventionalists for behavioral support, as well as perhaps even some of the K through 5 health educators that are also targeted for being cut. I believe those 2 buckets of cuts are not based on enrollment and therefore should be restored from where I sit today, and look forward to more budget conversations with this 30-day extension that we have. I just wanted to point out that there's a major disconnect, and that's why having a conversation about budget based on just what revenues are coming in, based on what businesses are doing what and what the tax levy is, doesn't connect to the actual need. And we really need to dive in later tonight and with our 30 days to really tackle this, because we can't restore everything, but there are certain positions that should be back on the table. And let's just remember, what is the one time in city history the city council has ever voted to demand the presence of a school district official? Student behavior. So if we're ever going to team up with the city council and mayor to preserve certain positions, perhaps the ones I just mentioned make some sense to everyone. Thank you.
Up next, Ms. Steyer.
Thank you, and it's exciting to see that the work continues, so I'm really appreciative of all your hard work and dedication. I'm excited also to hear that you're pursuing the threat assessment model, and so I have a couple of questions about that. In reading your memo, it was not clear to me, are you developing district-based or building-based threat assessment teams, and or maybe they're at the individual school level? That's my first question, and also how are they structured to make sure that you're ensuring a timely and multidisciplinary response? So if you want to answer that, then I have another follow-up question.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Steyer. We are very excited about it too. We believe deeply in the work. So where we've begun is we initially provided, so I'll talk in 2 pieces, one about the teams themselves and one about where we're at in the process of building this work in. So thanks to partnership also with our Director of Safety and Security, we were able to support training for all of our districts, social workers, counselors, and school psychologists, I believe. Siobhan can correct me if I'm misspeaking, in the clinical side of behavioral threat assessment and using the, if you're familiar with the CSTAG model, which is nationally recognized kind of gold standard model for behavioral threat assessment. So at the end of last year, all of our support staff were trained. This year, our administrators actually, I think in just a few weeks, are going to be trained as well in behavioral threat assessment. And then through our Raptor system, we actually have an electronic module to track the behavioral threat assessments over time and ensure that we're thoroughly assessing any concerns around that. Within each school, schools will have school-based teams. And when you think about the concentric circles of these teams, right, there are school-based crisis teams that might be smaller, that respond on an individual basis. And then there's the building-based threat assessment team, which might be expanded to include the building leaders, the standard, the support team, but then also potentially a building custodian and or other staff that might respond in the event of like a larger school crisis. That's more of like a school-wide crisis team. And then at the district level, we have a district-based team that includes myself, Siobhan, our Director of Health and Wellness, our Behavioral Health clinical coordinator, and our Director of Safety and Security, as well as our district health coordinator, Aurelia Medina, excuse me. And so we have multiple teams. We also are going to begin a next step after everybody's trained in sort of understanding the conceptual framework for CSTAG. And the behavioral threat assessment process is then to break down teams at each level in the building. So working with our school administrators to identify who is on their team, how often are they meeting, ideally once a month, and all of those pieces. So we're in the process of getting everyone oriented to what is this and what are we going to be doing with it. And then as a next step, we'll be formalizing those teams. And Siobhan, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add.
So my follow-up question, probably you won't be able to answer, is about data. Do you have any data you can share on the types of threats that you've assessed, or perhaps you haven't started to actually put the teams into play yet?
Sure. So, Siobhan, you looked like you wanted to respond, but I'm happy to take that one. So that's a great question. So where we currently have our data is in two places. Some of our support staff have begun to utilize the Raptor system to go through a threat assessment process. It's not consistent yet as we're in the middle of training and orienting staff to that module. We still maintain our student conduct database and follow up that way, as well as track referrals for if something warrants an outside evaluation through mobile crisis, and documenting at a school level. So I don't have hard data yet. Once we're fully rolled out with that system, we'll be able to better track, and I can provide you and the committee with the numbers. In terms of types of behavioral threat assessments, we have responded to threats of violence, like to harm others, threats to kill others, and or gun threats. And when I say gun threats, sometimes that's something like a student sharing a photo of themselves holding a BB gun, but we still take it very seriously and have to assess those risks and go through a threat assessment process, including a clinical interview as well, and partnering with our school resource officer as part of that process as well. But those are some of the types of threats that we have responded to and will use the system for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Brent.
Thank you, Courtney. It's good to see that these numbers are declining. That's where we want them to go, and I'm hoping that our staff resources will continue to support this work. I look forward to the conversation that Adam mentioned. I was wondering if you could also, my ears perked up about the disparity of discipline amongst certain staff, and I'm curious if you can speak to the partnership for this work that's being done with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director and other DEI staff throughout our schools.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So, of course, we just onboarded this year our new director, and so Siobhan and I have had initial conversations with him to talk about looking at some of our data and partnering around ways to address and intervene. Additionally, when incidents happen on a school-based level, our equity, the advocates that are in the school, I know we recently rethought the title for those roles. We partner with them and our social emotional behavioral coaches who really work to support implementation of the code in partnership with their school administrative teams, have worked with their equity, the advocates in their schools to think through interventions, educational opportunities and reteaching that needs to happen, opportunities for building understanding of the impact that they've had. And then additionally, we've partnered with our advocates in the past and now in looking at some of our curricular intervention models. I believe we have a meeting that's going to be coming up in the near future to continue to look at our curriculum. But for example, we have an SEL, an anti-bias SEL curriculum called AmazeWorks. And so we partner with them to review those curricular modules and determine which modules should be utilized for interventions and follow-up and which should be, taught universally, sort of at tier 1 for all students. So those are a few examples. More work to do.
Any further questions for this segment? Seeing none. Can we just go back? I forgot the vote for the calendar.
There's no vote needed tonight. It's just a first read.
Okay.
Unless you want to vote it, but we can go back and bring it to a
We
second.
usually vote first readings.
You vote a first read?
We do.
All right, great.
Sorry to backpedal. Is there a motion to approve the 2025-2026 school year calendar for a first reading?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Labarge.
Second for first.
Second by Ms. Moshe. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, it's approved for first reading, 9-0. Thank you, sorry.
No, great. Thank you very much. Following the protocol. Sounds like we're using first names. That's great. So thank you, Courtney and Siobhan. I appreciate you being on the screen tonight. And to the members for questions. And also, I'm going to have a hard time with this. Judy, I would call you Miss Steyer every time, but it sounds like we're making this a little bit more casual, which I love. For your work in starting this work, as you may recall, as you will recall, we started this work during the pandemic and working maybe even before that. I don't know, it all runs into each other, but I hope you see that the work persists and the legacy that is left under your leadership as well.
Thank you, Dr. Tremblay, and it is really encouraging and exciting to see the work continue.
So thank you for your leadership, and thanks to my colleagues for coming on screen tonight. The next item, I'll be brief, is the Accept Quarterly Report. As the committee knows, the requirement from the collaboratives is that we have to be on record. So I'll just read the statement so that we're on the public record of the Accept Collaborative requires that their quarterly reports are shared with the school committee, as it has been, and that it's also listed on the agenda, that it has been shared. Ms. Steyer will have to do the same thing with the Tech Collaborative as well. But they have been received per the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's review process for the collaborative. I won't go through the 137-page document tonight, but it is in your packets for your review. It is publicly available also. Unless there are any questions on that, I'm going to proceed on to the next update. Great. No vote is needed for that. It just needs to be acknowledged, just so we're clear. The facilities and fields coordination, this had come up at a previous meeting. I just wanted to give an update on that. I want to thank the Buildings and Grounds Department in Framingham, as well as the Parks and Recreation Department for the collaboration here. So we have a good collaboration that's happening with schedule sharing, communication between permitting offices, and then clarity of information on both the Parks and Recreation website permitting, as well as the Buildings and Grounds website for permitting, that are reciprocal, so we can avoid overlapping of events. There's communication about those events, so we don't have a school event happening, say, at the Fuller Amphitheater, while there's simultaneously a game happening on the Fuller Fields. So we can avoid those conflicts, so that field time, we allow our in town programming for sports, for example, to access fields at 5 p.m., even though our school playgrounds are with posted signage until 5:30 p.m., working with the 2 or 3 schools that are impacted. We have a plan for communication that's been established, and we can link those procedures now to the policy as was recommended before. So I'm going to feel that you probably have a question or a comment, Mr. Freudberg. Maybe not. Maybe we've hit it, but I wanted to just give the committee an update on that progress and just to thank the city and our Buildings and Grounds Department for their hard work to get this aligned.
Thank you. Just how pleased I am that for the committee to collaborate here and in that motion to help make this possible, and to what you have done with your team in the Parks Department. This is about customer service. There's now a consistent practice on a website that everyone knows how to go through a process to book a school for their event or recreation. So much appreciated. Thank you. And since you happen to mention Fuller in your example, let's not forget that these fields don't have lights, and that continues to be one of the biggest regrets as someone who was involved in the Fuller Building Project, that it was not included at the time due to some fiscal concerns that other people had during the pandemic. And it continues to be something that would create more opportunities for our youth and bands and other users to use for sports and everything, not to mention the revenue on our only turf field in the community. And as we go forward for next year's capital planning process, I would just encourage that we go back to a project that the school district has already voted, the school committee has already voted for, and just never has happened yet. Thank you.
I should have picked a different school as my example.
That is accurate.
That's my takeaway, and I walked right into that trap. All right, thank you, Mr. Freiberg. Just adding a little humor here. Thank you. And finally, unless there's any other comments on the fields? Okay. Moving on to my last update. This is just an early look at pre-K enrollment trends for 26-27. So I know there's discussion about declining enrollment. That's not a surprise. But what's interesting is we're seeing on the other end of this is this sort of persistence of enrollment on the younger side. So I wanted to just give a quick update. It's very early in this process to do this, but I also want to acknowledge, and what is wrapped into this are previous discussions that the committee has had around the block's expansion, for example, to being 5 days. And what does that mean for an impact? We heard about the impact here in this room, and there were promises made and work continues, but I want to give you the impact analysis, just a snapshot into this, and for the public as well, as I know the committee has been provided this, but over the past month, 166 eligible families have submitted pre-K intake forms for the upcoming school year. The 5-day models had the impact that we had hoped for. All of our partnerships for educational learning, our partner sites, pre-K seats across our 3 district locations, and preschool seats at Blocks Juniper Hill are filled with wait lists at each of those sites. I want to just acknowledge Christina Shea and her hard work in this. Her collaboration with our expanded learning time leadership as well allows a family choice and access to district classrooms with extended day and full day expanded learning options. So this is so we can expand those days for families who may have working or other kinds of responsibilities to give that expanded learning time opportunity for Framingham students. I also want to acknowledge that we have a lot of challenges that we're working through and will continue to work through. In the early childhood space, and to all the educators who made this possible, I want to recognize that Framingham continues to be recognized as an exemplar for our pre-K expansion and collaborative approach across the Commonwealth. So even during one of the most challenging budget periods, and that will continue tonight and beyond, we've been able to continue moving the work forward with our commitment and our strategic priorities to pre-K expansion. I just want to thank the committee for that work. With regard to kindergarten, also, the incoming kindergarten class enrollment numbers are on trend with previous years. So the declining enrollment we talked about seems to be held harmless at the K level. So something to be mindful of is what will happen with enrollment decline and the possibility of enrollment swell in the years ahead. Per the city's census, there are 667 children who are in kindergarten, who are kindergarten eligible for the 26-27 school year. Incoming kindergarten registration started on January 5th, and since then we've registered 221 students and have 225 appointments booked from now until March. And this is a total of 446 students so far that are sort of in the process. Just to note, though, that the kindergarten registration period runs from January through May, so the enrollment numbers for the incoming kindergarten class will continue to grow. So I wanted to just give that snapshot and also to thank our student registration team, McKaylee Neves, our director, and all the staff who work at the registration center, and our screeners that also work in our department. So many people have made this possible, but I thought the committee might appreciate hearing, as we counterbalance the conversations around declining enrollment with, we're not quite seeing that same decline when you look at students who are just about to enter the district in 26, 27. I'll pause there in case there are any questions, but that's all I have under my report this evening. Thanks so much.
All right. Seeing no questions, we'll continue. Thank you so much for your report. And for those of you that also joined us, we will go on to the next order of business, which is Assistant Superintendent for Pre-K to 12 Education Update. I'll turn it over to Ann Ludis. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'll keep this brief. I know we have a big agenda this evening. But building on the early education theme, the preschool and pre-K 5-day implementation working group had their second meeting today. And it was a highly productive meeting. We discussed a variety of topics related primarily to special education. We talked about the ways to manage time for initial evaluations and initial meetings for special education IEPs, annual evaluations and meetings, as well as time for IEP writing. We discussed ways to be creative and resourceful with evaluation space and resources, IEP scheduling and locations for those meetings, as well as providing services, service delivery for all students in a sustainable way, as well as planning and preparation time as we transition from a 4-day school week model to a 5-day school week model. This meeting, during this meeting, we identified the need for increased efficiency and clearer structures related to space designation, scheduling, and communication about IEP meetings. The team also discussed ways to review caseloads, cover schedules, and coordinate with related service providers, and as well as the importance of providing opportunities for collaboration for staff members to support preparation and sharing of resources. The school leadership team have identified steps that they will take before the next meeting to develop model schedules and plans for the use of the space throughout the school next year. And I just have to say, it is an absolute joy to work with this group. There are about 18 of us or so that are in this group, and they are a wonderful group of educators and clearly just remarkable problem solvers and very collaborative. So I'm very grateful to be a part of that group. I thought tonight I would share some celebrations, I guess you could say. So the first one comes from Cameron Middle School. Led by the Cameron Science Department head, Ms. Liz Packham. All Cameron Middle School students earlier this year participated in a 4-hour virtual Student Solve Idea-thon in partnership with Open Syed, Sanofi, and Flagship Engineering, which is a company that fosters innovation in entrepreneurship. This in-school field trip challenged students to apply scientific research skills to a real-world agricultural problem on citrus greening. If you ask me about it, I do have some notes, but please don't ask me. One student team was recognized for their exceptional ideas that they developed, and in recognition of their success, not only will they receive certificates and a classroom banner, but they, along with their classmates, will take a trip in March to visit Flagship Pioneering, which is the company that they worked with during that virtual event. There they will learn more about the company, get a tour of the science labs, and get a chance to talk with scientists, which is really, really great. Framingham High School is also being recognized by the College Board as on their list of schools that made the AP honor roll for last year's achievements on the AP exams. This means that FHS met all three criteria established by the College Board. Those criteria are that 40% or more of the graduating cohort, last year's graduating class, took at least one AP exam during high school. 25% or more of the graduating class scored a 3 or higher on at least one AP exam during high school. And I have 2%. I think I lost a digit here. A certain percentage of the graduating cohort took 5 or more AP exams during high school, meaning, and at least one of those exams was taken in 9th or 10th grade, which means that they didn't just pack them all into their upperclassmen years, but that they had access and opportunity to take AP exams, college level coursework in their earlier high school years. I mentioned this, I think it was at last week's meeting, that the high school offers more than 20 AP courses, and I think that this right here speaks to that hard work. Some of the courses that they offer are the traditional AP Calculus, which I loved to teach when I was a math teacher at Framingham High, but also AP Art History, AP Government and Politics, AP Physics, AP French, AP Music Theory, AP Art and Design. Next year, we'll have an AP Business and Personal Finance class, AP Cybersecurity, AP Micro and Macroeconomics. So the list goes on, and it's really exciting that the high school is able to offer all of those courses. So I just wanted to give a shout out and share some positive news with all of you tonight. And that concludes my remarks. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thanks, Anne. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll move on from here. Next up, going to the Executive Director of Finance and Operations update. I'll turn it over to Lincoln Lynch.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. Just 2 quick things tonight. Capital budget update. We are currently working with the city on geothermal phase 2 at the Farley building. We're also planning for Juniper Hill Blocks phase 2 for the summer, as well as the King Lula lift install this summer. We're currently working on fire alarm design at several schools, the Farley Solar, again with the city, and then the MSBA, the new elementary school, and then the Brophy and Potter Roof projects will be ramping up pretty quickly. So busy in the capital world. Any questions on that?
Adam, go ahead.
Thanks. On the other capital projects pending before the city council, do you have any updates on those? I haven't watched the recent meetings, but I saw in a city council's newsletter they were talking of splitting up near-term versus later projects, and I just wanted to make sure that we are properly advocating for the unique school construction schedule and that anything in their near-term bucket, especially since our total costs are really low this year in comparison, such as the high school auditorium work, right? That only can happen over the summer. So I want to make sure we don't miss an entire year cycle.
Absolutely, yeah. When that time comes, we'll make sure they know. I have not been reached out about that yet.
I believe the time's already come, though. Wasn't Mr. Duane on a previous meeting agenda? I just want to make sure it's not lost in the mix. So if you don't mind tackling that with the city council to make sure.
Yeah, I'll check with
because their deadline in the new charter is by the end of the month. And my understanding is they're going to do a round 1, and I want to make sure we're in the round 1 if at all possible. And then round 2 would be later, after our deadlines for your procurement and summer construction processes. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Next is FY26 year-to-date. We're at a 55.82% spend rate. We are really in the middle of projections now. We presented projections last meeting, but we're continuing to work with principals, directors, and we are on track to end the year in the black as of now. There are several out-of-district placements that could happen between now and the end of the year. If that does happen, we might need to put some sort of budget slowdown in place, whether on salaries or expenses, but at this time, we do not need to do that. As soon as that happens, if it happens, I'll let the committee know.
Okay. Questions?
Thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. All set? Yeah. All right, up next, we're going to go to appointment of warrant signers. This is policy DGA. Per policy DGA, the school committee will designate a primary signer, a deputy signer, and 3 alternates to carry out the responsibility of signing the warrants and payroll. This is currently done electronically by William LaBarge, and every new term needs to be voted on. Do you want to speak out and just share a little bit about what it's about and what it entails?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, for the warrants signing, it's a matter of going through the warrants, the receipts, checking things on it. I also find it to be very interesting on the kind of expenditure we do on it as well. But of course, if there's others who want the position, I'm willing to yield that for them as well. But I'm also willing to go and do it for another year or another term. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your description of it and for your interest in it as well. So there are 5 of them. So we need first a primary, a deputy, backup 1, backup 2, backup 3. Who is interested in being the primary? Mr. Labarge. Is there anybody else who's interested? We can put it to a vote. All right, so I'm going to put Mr. Labarge as the primary. Who would like to be the deputy in his absence or if he's unavailable to sign the backup? Deputy? Adam?
I've been the deputy for the last couple of years. Willie's never been absent, except for maybe one time you asked me to send the email for something, so it's really minimal work. If anybody else wants the position, I think it's great to have new members and returning members share this responsibility. Either way, all of us have 24/7 access to the documents where all the bills and invoices and payroll are, and it's just a really good thing for all of us to, when you have time, go through that and understand what this is all about. But I want to thank Mr. Labarge for the diligent work over the last few years and always being responsive so people get paid on time, vendors and staff included. And if seeing no other hands to volunteer, unless I've convinced someone, I'll continue to be the backup. But then we also need 3 other backups.
Great, thank you. So I put you down for number 2 and number 3. All right, Kyle, you are backup number 1. So we have a primary, a deputy. Kyle's backup number 1, backup number 4. All right, Mr. Robles. And Jen, unless there's any objection, Jen is going to take 5. Sorry. All right, we have to vote on it now. So the motion is to appoint Willie as the primary signer, Adam as the deputy, Kyle as the first backup, Rich as the second backup, and Jen as the third backup/alternate for warrants. Motion.
So moved with gratitude.
All right.
Second.
Moved by Brent, seconded by Jen. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. All right. Thank you, and definitely with gratitude. Next up, we have Rules and Administration Subcommittee presentation and vote on the report. I'll turn it over to the Subcommittee Chair, Jennifer Moshe.
Thank you. No presentation because we did last time. So the Rules and Administration Subcommittee report has been updated based on edits from the last meeting. These are highlighted in yellow on the document and included a correction to the description for the school building committee, removing the recommendation for subcommittee chairs to send memos summarizing meetings due to open meeting law, and the addition of annual check-in meetings with SIFOC appointees and chair to the long-term agenda. There were some additional suggestions: add liaison rollover language, add interim appointing authority when the chair is elected for finance and operations.
I can speak to those changes too.
Sure.
So a couple of things popped, and I think that adding language that there's liaison rollover to will be helpful. So that can be up and running. Say, for example, CPAC reaches out, they should automatically have someone that they can contact that they know. So having that specifically stated as liaison, right now it's only subcommittee. And then as far as, I feel like in hindsight, the first 2 starts to my term as chair, I think there's an opportunity for improvement as far as finance and operations subcommittee. There's always going to be a finance subcommittee in my mind in this job. And adding rollover language, and I kind of just, thanks to Jen for, I just kind of mentioned these, and I think she was going to wordsmith it somewhere. Either add, so the rollover for the subcommittee, but also just adding appointing, so once the chair becomes elected, having them have immediate interim appointing authority, I think would be helpful in just getting finance and operations up and running a little bit faster than perhaps just the delayed with the rules, subcommittee development, vote, all that. So those are my 2 additional suggestions. Happy to talk them through. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any discussion, questions? Adam, go ahead.
Great adds. My next concept is totally separate and probably doesn't need to go in the rules report, but since we're talking about this, could we get an update at some point soon on where our meetings are going to be? As you may recall, we voted last year to move to the Farley building, and there were some tech challenges, and so we want to make sure that we just have awareness, and I figure our rules conversation is the best time for that, unless we want to put it on a future agenda in the interest of time. So I don't want to, this is unscheduled. We can easily put this aside. I support the rules report as drafted with those great edits, but do think we should know when if we're still moving, how we're moving. And one of my biggest aspects of when we move is the communications plan and making sure the videos from the meetings still get online ASAP. Right now, the government child does a fantastic job putting videos online the next morning. I want to make sure that continues on in a new location. Thank you.
I have a quick comment on that, and then you could probably elaborate a lot more, but I think for us to move there, I think what we really could benefit from is having an in-person subcommittee, I know we've had school building committee there, and it grew a lot. The next meeting was a lot more efficient, and that we had some really big audio issues the first time we did it. But I think if there's any subcommittee chair and potential members who can just do one practice run, I think that's our next step as far as us being ready, just with the technology, making sure that we get all those kinks out first. But then I'll let you, obviously the space is ready for us.
Yeah, I think you said it all. We're ready to go. We've tested it out. We'll have interpreters, sort of next level. We have American Sign Language here on screen, as you know, but we'll also be able to have our meetings in Portuguese and Spanish real-time interpretation, in person and on Zoom. So that's another next level. It's ready with lighting, with the screens, seating, audio. We're really ready to roll. But I do agree with the chair. I think it would be good to field test this with a subcommittee or subcommittees of the school committee as a trial, just to make sure we can work through any of those implementation hurdles. But our team is ready to go. I want to thank the Education Channel for their work on this as well. So we're ready when you are.
Right, and then we'd have to figure out the communication plan, and we'd have to figure out the broadcasting. And I think just it's so convenient for subcommittees to be virtual, and we just need someone to commit to kind of being there to try it out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like a subcommittee meeting could work, but you could also just do this, like with staff, volunteers. Like, it doesn't have to be a formal meeting to just practice it. So if it saves people time from having to book a meeting around it, it's just another consideration. It's not an open meeting law issue. It's just let's get a few people in the room. It could even be done during, from central office staff doing it with their tech teams and with the TV station. So I think my point's heard, and I thank you for your response. But just wanted to, we originally, I think, were going to shift there a few months ago, and due to some natural circumstances, haven't yet. And just thought tonight was the time to raise it. So thanks.
Thanks, and I think we have had those conversations with Joanna too about just not even having a meeting and just trying it out. So, point taken.
Thank you. So I will look for a motion to approve the rules and administration report as submitted, inclusive of committee rules, reporting requirements, long-term agenda, and types of subcommittee and liaisons.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Labarge.
Second. Oh, sorry. Second.
Second by Jessica. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 9-0. Thank you.
Thanks for your work on that, to the committee members. Vote to appoint, we're on to the next section, which is a vote to appoint one school committee member to a vacant seat on the school building committee. So due to one of the members of the school building committee who was formerly on the school committee no longer serving, a new member will need to be voted on to fill that vacant seat. The voted-in member needs to submit a brief bio. I'll be in touch with more information on that. So up first, I will open it up to volunteers, and I'll just take interested names first. So just throw your hand up, raise your hand if you are interested in serving on the school building committee. We got Brent, we got Willie, we got Lorena. Okay. All right, so we have 3 people that are interested. I'm going to turn it over for you guys to talk a little bit about why you're interested. The questions that we ask the school committee candidates, if you want to use these, if you don't want to use these, that's fine. Relevant experience for the school building committee. Why are you interested in serving? What do you feel like the purpose and vision of this project is for the city? And what do you foresee as potential impacts to the city a new building project would begin? So we'll go in district order. Up first, I will go to Lorena.
Hi, sorry, I don't have the questions in front of me. Can you?
It's just anything. anything you want to talk about. The questions that we asked our school committee members that we, not separate from us, we said, why are you interested in serving on the school building committee? What do you feel like the purpose and vision of this project is? Experience and potential impacts to the city a new school building project will bring. But feel free to deviate.
Okay, I'll be very brief. So I think I'm kind of new to this conversation, and one of the main interests is I know that my constituents will likely be impacted by this new school, and so I think it would be important for them to be represented in the subcommittee. I also have a lot of questions about the process and the thought process that has been guiding the different conversations. What else? Experience. I'm not really sure how to sell myself on that, except for I really want to make sure that we are going to be making the best decision for our district. While I do believe that that another school is potentially necessary, I just have some questions on the longer term impact. And so answering the last point there about what the impact will be on the city, that's something I would love to find out as part of these conversations. So yeah.
Thank you. All right, up next, Brent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one of those projects that I've been excited about for a while. During the campaign, as I was knocking on doors and talking to constituents, it was always one of the things I mentioned that I was looking forward to the school committee taking on. We as a city have talked for a long time about a South Side elementary school, and let me couch this with what I told them. We are early in the MSBA process. A site has not been determined. But I continue to be excited and hopeful for a Southside school. I think it would help address some of the disparities we have in our school system. 2/3 of our students live south of Route 9, which requires those students to have long buses to go to most of our elementary schools on the north side. It also increases traffic for Framingham. I'm also really excited that this project is looking at expanding our pre-K availability, as we've heard from Bob. There's just tremendous interest, and it's building a school with pre-K in mind from the start would really help us shape a space for our youngest learners and work towards our goal of universal pre-K. As a candidate and as a member, I've been attending the SBC meetings, listening into the conversation. I know that work is about to kick into high drive. Adam and others are going to be interviewing architects, at which point we'll be able to start talking and dreaming about what we want the school to be. And so I would love to be a part of this process as a member. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, up next, Willie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I was willing to go and be on the school building committee, but there seem to be some candidates who seem to be more interested in it. But while I have the microphone, I just want to say one of the things I'd like to see is that there's adequate infrastructure, such as electrical infrastructure, so that if we're going to be putting in heat pump technology, I just want to be sure that we have adequate power into the classroom where we could go and run some emergency heaters if the heat pump heating system should fail us one way or another, as well as any other thing. But I'm willing to go and yield to some others who appear to be more interested. Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm taking you off the list of those interested. Okay, so now we're going to go in district order. Say the name of the person that you're voting for. We'll go District 1.
Lorena.
District 2.
For myself?
Yeah.
I vote for myself.
District 3.
Brent.
District 4.
Brent.
District 5.
Lorena.
District 6.
Myself.
District 7.
Brent.
District 8, I'll go Brent. District 9.
Oh, Brent.
All right, congratulations, and thank you both for your willingness to serve on the school building committee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it's 6-3. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Freudberg.
Thanks to the three of you for throwing your names in. It's always difficult when we have to pick one of our own. And I'll just remind us what I've said at previous reports. We all have an incredibly important role as a school committee member to be part of this team to go forward. As was mentioned, the architect selection process is at a public meeting of the MSBA Designer Selection Committee next Tuesday, and then we'll be getting a chance to meet with that architect at some point. First, the school building committee will, and then we will. So the work continues on as we enter this important phase that I'm really focused on communicating the favorable outcomes about why this project is so essential, and it's too important to pass on the opportunity to partner with the MSBA to get this done. So thank you all. I look forward to working with all of you going forward, and congratulations as being the next formal member.
Well said. Thank you, Adam. Up next, we're going to go to FY27 budget vote and submission to the mayor. Turn it over to Dr. Tremblay and Lincoln Lynch.
Want to take it first?
Sure. So in your packets, there is an updated presentation tonight. If we want to go through that quickly, just to give you an update on where we are, what the numbers look like. And again, these are just proposed numbers. Nothing has been voted on. And as the mayor said earlier, budget vote has been extended 30 days. So when we were planning for a vote tonight, we have 30 days from tonight. So Joanna, if you actually just want to go to slide 5. We've already kind of talked about revenue projections, Chapter 70. We're going to be a minimum aid district. We're only receiving $671,100 in additional Chapter 70 funding. So the delta for the increase would need to be made up by the local contribution, which now that there's some extra time, we can figure out how to close that gap. But this is the latest and revised budget reduction plan. So we started off at a $15.1 million increase back, feels like 3-4 months ago. Since then, we have provided several different iterations of the budget. We have met with many, many different people for many, many hours to talk about class sizes, to talk about enrollment, to look at each building and the enrollment drop based on the percentage of the total enrollment drop to make decisions to close the gap. It's not something any of us want to be a part of. It's part of the job, unfortunately, to provide a balanced budget, to guide the school committee and provide information so you can make decisions. But again, not something we enjoyed doing. So I stress that because as we talk about reductions, my feeling has been all along and still is that letting people know the earlier, the better. If they are not going to be employed next year, it's much, much better for them to know early so they can get their applications out, so they can make sure they're in that prime hiring window for jobs next year. So while the 30-day delay is great, I urge you to make decisions so we can let folks know what the plan is, what positions will not be funded for next year. So again, the proposed revised plan, we had 15 million. The idea is to receive 6.3 million, a combination of that increase in Chapter 70 funding plus local contribution, which leaves us an $8.8 million budget gap. To close that gap first, and we always look at expenses first. We look at everything but front-facing, student-facing staff. It gets to a point where the budget gap is too large that you have to start looking at those positions, especially when you're down 700 students. So if you just take a step back, the past 2 years, we have been fortunate enough not to reduce classroom positions. We have cut central office positions to the tune of 27 positions the last 2 years. So just know that we're always looking at different options than to go directly to the classroom, always. We've done that the past 2 years to balance the budget, central office dropping by 27 positions. So again, this year, before we looked at any classroom, school-based staff, we looked at department expenses. So we reduced by $1.7 million. Every department went through their budget. They cut 10% or 100,000 max. Some departments were able to cut a little bit more, but that got us to a $1.7 million reduction to close the gap. The next risk that we took, and we actually got some good news yesterday, we moved the $1.2 million that initially was going to hit the operating budget back to the federal funds. The House Senate plan came out yesterday, I believe, and it level funds the title grants. So this risk that we took, it still has to go through final approval, but it's beginning to look more and more that that risk that we took will pay off. We won't have to go for a mid-year appropriation, and the Title 1, 2, 3, and 4 funds will be level. We don't have to count on the operating budget. By doing that, that allowed us to revise the reduction plan. And by doing that, we were able to reinstate some positions that have been talked about at multiple meetings, so we are happy about that. But there's still a budget gap that needs to be closed, even after shifting federal funds back to the federal budget and reinstating some positions. With that, and after the expenses were reduced and after the federal funds were shifted back, we are still looking at a 96.4 FTE reduction to close the budget gap. It would consist of 13.4 positions at central office. That's in addition to the 27 that have been reduced the last 2 years. 3 school-based administrators, 48 teaching staff, and 32 school-based support staff. We factored in retirements, any resignations that we know about. Those numbers are all factored in here. So it actually is 96.4 positions. It's not necessarily 96.4 people. So an elementary teacher is retiring at the end of this year, and we were going to close a classroom at a different school. That teacher at the other school would shift into the role that the retiree was in for this year. So again, it's not 96.4 people, it's 96.4 positions. But in the end, it is people. It comes down to reducing people and unfortunately not funding positions next year that we have this year. So again, if decisions can be made in a timely manner so we can help those folks out, I think that would be ideal. The next couple slides are budget drivers that we've gone through. The only major change here is that budget driver for federal grant. The previous presentations had a $1.2 million add to the operating budget. That is now 0. So that's the only major change there. So Madam Chair, that's really, there's actually one additional slide, Joanna. If you go to slide 10, this is a slide that first name basis Kyle requested last meeting. And this actually shows the total contribution to the schools. So it includes the Chapter 70 state aid, it's a general fund revenue through the city to the schools. Then it adds the local contribution. And then it also adds the school-based costs covered by the city budget. So you can see on the slide, if you look at FY22, our operating budget was $146.83 million, which is Chapter 70 plus local contribution. But then you can add another $40.97 million in school-related costs covered by the city budget. That's not shown in our operating budget. So it just shows above and beyond what the city contributes to the school department. And then you can see as the years go on, the numbers obviously go up as our operating budget increases. And the contribution to the school department costs from the city increases. Now, a large part of that is the health insurance costs. As you know, that goes up every year, sometimes double-digit increases. But this slide just shows the total contribution to the school department from the city budget. Just something I want to touch on before turning it back over to the chair. So that's it. Just for a quick recap of the current FY27 status.
All right, we'll open it up for discussion, questions, comments.
Yes, thank you. So I'm trying to understand this graph, and I want to see if it is actually what I asked for. So on the blue bar is the FPS budget. The red is the required net school spending. So that required net is the Chapter 78 plus the local contribution that is required, or is that the local contribution as reported to the state?
Okay, so what I should have said to finish was the net school spending information is on the right side. Okay, so you asked for two different things.
Yes.
If my notes were correct. It was on the left side, it's local contribution plus Chapter 70 plus the city budget. On the right side shows a graph that shows what our operating budget was. So for instance, in FY22, 146.8 million, our required net school spending from DESE was 124.2 million.
Was that a required net local spending or required net total?
Total.
Okay. So this is showing I'm trying to see if this is, how is it that DESE specifies what we're required to spend? When we report to them, we are including all the stuff that's on the city side.
Correct.
Too. Where is that number?
The total?
The total that we report?
Yep, that number's on the left side. So the 187.8 million.
Okay.
So we are far above and beyond what the state says we have to spend to be in compliance.
Okay. That's what I was trying to understand. So we are staying consistent with that over year over year. Because I was looking at the bars on the right, and it looked like we were converging on the required net spending.
We are.
Yes.
It is getting closer.
Yeah, and the question is that a long-term trend that we are expecting to continue? Are we going to be doing, should we make the Framingham sign say, "Welcome to Framingham, Massachusetts, established 1700," of doing the minimum required by law for our kids? Or do we want to get back to where we were before? I mean, I know what your answer is to this. I think there's an answer to go to the city for. I mean, because we're not going to get what we want on sale.
All right. Anyone to follow? Go ahead, Adam.
I've talked a lot about my views on policy, and so I think tonight I want to get a little bit, since we do have a little more time, on some process. What the district put in the packet tonight with that detailed description on your views on the positions is much appreciated. And while I don't agree on every single line that's in there, and I have a lot of questions, I do think that's very helpful to understand your views on the impacts. And so I think we should use our next meeting to talk about what we as a group agree to restore. Maybe there's some tonight, if people disagree that tonight's not the night or is the night. I mean, there are some positions that I feel like we should restore. We can't restore all of them, and I'll go back to what I said in one of the first meetings about how the district's original proposal to balance the budget that, again, they were required to do was graded a D, and the 15 million all in is an A that I don't think is feasible, and there are some positions that specifically due to enrollment, I hate to say it, that do likely need to go, but it doesn't need to be the D level or the C+ level with the revisions of the federal funding. I do believe there's a real appetite in our community to go slightly above the mayor's number to a number that aligns with either the contract or some specific restorations that we can make. And we can do this in a way that, number one, utilizes the chapters. Here I am going off on policy again, even though I said process. I'll get there. Uses the new Chapter 70, $402,000 of new money over the December 30th estimates are now in the governor's budget based on the increase in per pupil costs. There are also, number two, legitimate healthcare savings. This is not a budget where new positions are being added. So for the first time, again, unfortunately, but there are legitimate healthcare savings from those who are retiring or some positions that will be cut that can help the city finances. There is also tax levy cap that I've talked about. So there are multiple options for a reasonable amount of funding to help close the gap. I agree that we're not going to get to that full A level, and I would hope that from a process perspective, the district could give us some scenarios. We are not the experts, but I'm ready to take votes like we are the experts if we need to on specific positions or blocks of positions that have been discussed. But I was wondering if you would be willing as a district to think about at our next meeting some scenarios of if we were going to be able to get 500K more, $1 million more, 1.5, 2 million, whatever the number may be, about kind of what your priority level of restoration will be. And I know how hard this is, but I do think that that's a better process than us going through line by line and voting yes or no on those 96 positions, with a caveat of if we were going to vote right now on a couple, I think we'd have a majority vote or some blocks. And I'll pause, besides before floating those, I will pause and see what your thoughts are on kind of that process and how to use the new 30 days we have with, February 25th and March 4th. We have 2 more scheduled meetings where I feel like we can dive into this, as tonight was a heavy agenda on non-budget topics.
Yeah, I mean, I can start on that link if it's all right. Yeah. Yes, we can come back with a sort of a menu, if you will, of add backs that are student-facing positions as a priority, if I'm hearing that. And again, I want to be clear that in this, as Link said, well, in our first budget round of proposals, we don't want to propose any of these reductions. We're trying to get to a balance. And nothing has been voted, so I know there's this conversation of what's been proposed initially, what's been added back as a result of the $1.2 million then risk, but now I think we have that with some assurances. I guess the question I have is, does that mean that everything that was in these proposed is something that stands? I remember we did sort of a straw poll at the first meeting saying many of you say, we can't support this budget. So we heard that and put these proposals back and for the conversations you heard. But we can't just assume, I guess, right, that those positions added back are the ones that the committee wants to keep, and then we're building from there, or are we starting from the beginning, I guess is my question. Because there's not been any votes to date on this, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear on how we build out these sort of $500,000 increments that you described to get to from where we are to, say, a $15 million fully funded budget.
I could follow up on my question. Thank you. I mean, that's everyone's individual opinion. I mean, my opinion is the school committee typically does not take those type of votes, but it doesn't mean we can't. I personally support the restorations, and I'm glad that the federal funds are coming in and the other moves and the technology and the out-of-state travel was reduced, like those type of things to help support student-facing positions. And then, maybe tonight members can talk about, as you take that in, what beyond those positions that have already been restored that I do support them remaining in the budget. There's been a lot of talk about the McKinney-Vento position. I mentioned tonight the restoration interventionist, the 4 positions. We can't do it all, but we should talk about the specifics. I would love to have more of a deep dive to get into the health impacts and what I was confused by how those paragraphs were written in tonight's memo on some aspects. Some made sense, and was just curious about if those health positions is something the committee would like to pursue. And then we've heard a lot of public comment and emails about special education positions, and I want to better understand the specific impacts to those services. And that's just me. We have 8 other voices, and I'll pause there so I'm not dominating the time, but we should really get to a place where we tell the district a little bit about our priorities, so when we talk about going higher than it currently is with balance, some guidance for them as well. Thanks.
Any response? We have a couple more people with hands up.
You mind? Yeah. Yeah, I will say it's been really difficult to put this budget together just because there haven't been any votes. And this is the second iteration that we've come back. There's been reinstatements. we reinstated the positions, but there wasn't a vote. So it's just, it would be really helpful, and I know it doesn't seem like we don't want to, we're not going to do it, but to line by line to get a feel. And then we have all principals and all directors here tonight again. So if there are questions, I mean, I think we kind of expedite a little bit what we're trying to do here, because I'm just afraid we're going to go back, we're going to revise some positions, and then do we add the health positions back in and then take something else out? Or are we just adding? Are we just keep adding, and hopefully that the local contribution will be higher, we'll get more funding? What happens if we don't, and then we tell all these folks, you're not going to have a job, or you are going to have one, and then we don't end up getting the money in 2 months? It's just been a very difficult budget process, and I can't imagine the people who are on the list and how they feel. I actually can, because I've got a lot of feedback, and it's not good. There's a lot of people, they're scared, they don't know what to do, they're not sure if they're going to have a job or not. So it's, you know, I feel bad complaining about putting budget books together. I shouldn't at all, because some of the folks on this list, they don't know if they're going to have a job next year. So all I'm asking is just if we could get some direction from the committee on what you're thinking, and if it's, you need to reinstate this position, that position, then that's fine. But just some direction on building this budget out so we're ready to go in 30 days. So, thank you.
So individual feedback is noted, but motions and votes is how this committee speaks. So at some point, we should organize our thoughts and put it to a vote.
Please, thank you.
All right, we got a couple people in line. Up first, Jen, followed by Lorena.
Thank you. Adam, to your point of doing the restoration of positions, I think that we can't just make that determination saying you need to restore this, 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 and this, because we're not in the school buildings, in my opinion, and I know you said this is not our expertise. It's not our expertise, so I think we need to be treading lightly on that and get better feedback as to what the cut would be and why, not just because, you know, of funding. I think we deserve a better explanation that whatever the case may be, if there's 14 different, you know, students not requiring a certain intervention and that position can be eliminated, or whatever the case may be. I just don't think we can sit there and say, put this back, put this back, put this back. I do think, however, we could possibly vote to not fill the 40 positions that are vacant at this point. Why?
Yeah,
That's okay, but this is open discussion.
And we have someone else that's ready to speak too, so.
Okay.
Why don't you finish up and then we'll go on to
I
the
mean, the
next.
40 positions haven't been filled for multiple years. So to put those in right now, I don't see the value of doing that when we have 56 positions that are potentially going to be cut.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Ms. Tovar, Lorena.
Thank you. So I know that this is very hard. I recognize that. I know that you've been looking at this every single day for the past many, many weeks. I am cognizant of that. And I know that nobody's happy with the cuts, period, regardless of what positions are at stake. But I'm just really worried about how these cuts are going to really have an impact, a direct impact, and a long-lasting impact on our schools and our community, et cetera. And I just, you know, the comments from the FTA president really hit a nerve about are we actually going to be staffing for success? And I think that is the major question for me. How are these cuts going to impact us at the end of the day? And I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, and this is not to target any particular position, because I know that everybody values the work that they do, but it doesn't really seem like there is much appetite to look further at non-student facing positions. And I understand that you have said that they have been cut in the past years, et cetera, but that's not enough for our constituents, for my constituents. So I don't know what compromises we'll be willing to accept as a committee. I don't know what the compromise will be. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Ms. Robles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lincoln, I know we have this new iteration, and I know, like you said, it's really, really hard to get to this. As I look at the 96.4 FTEs, that's not 96 people. How many people are actually being affected, possibly?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number because we might have other retirements, we might have other resignations. But we had talked about 40 retirements and resignations, but some of those might be a special ed teacher. And if the reduction on the reduction list is reinstated, then that wipes that out. So I don't have a number, but it's not 96 people.
Right, it's a lot more than that. So Lorena, I'm also, what you said, yeah, is staying with me, because it's not that we're just taking one person out. We're taking possibly two people who are in different campuses with relationships with students, helping them, understanding the history, understanding where they are, mental health, what they need from their families. That's what's concerning for me, because these students are about to lose someone who advocates for them, and actually they're possibly, without exaggeration, saving their lives.
I agree with you 100%. That absolutely could happen. And if the cuts are significant, that will happen to many people. You're right. This is not the best scenario at all. The kids, they will suffer from it. There's no doubt. But when it comes down to it, if there's only so much funding to go around, we need to reduce somewhere. So, there's been a lot of talk about central office. I would love some direction on where in central office.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, the comments from the crowd don't help, but some direction would be helpful on ideas, things like that.
Yeah, it is clear to me that your job is to propose something. This is not you doing all of this, because, we're looking at this because we need to do it as a city. Thank you.
All right, up next, Lorena, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that. I would love to see all the contracts. I would love to see all of the information for central office to be able to suggest or propose or actually inquire about the positions and their level of what is the word? I can't find the word. Whether or not they're essential, or how you deem them essential over student-facing positions. I think that might be helpful.
I think that's a miss, though. I am not saying they are better than a classroom teacher by any means.
Can you please help us and help the community understand then how you got to the conclusion? And I get that it's probably not apples to apples, but I think that is the piece that is missing. It's the piece that we're missing is how you evaluated each position. Was every single position looked at with the same level of care? That is what the people want to understand. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of my constituents. People have reached out to me directly. I am the voice of the people who put me in this seat. So that's all I'm doing tonight.
And I can jump in as well. At some point over the years, we got to the staffing that we have because this board and all of us believed that these were the right positions. So what makes this hard is that we have this decline of students in our schools that are we're talking about student facing. We also have to be mindful that we have 700 less of them, right? 700 less students. So I think we have to be responsive to that at some point, somewhere in here. And it's not to say that we're not making, if we made this whole budget balance on central office, in past years we did that. And I know there's people who may disagree. We provided evidence of that. And it would probably be a much shorter meeting. But now we've gone beyond that with now hitting over 40 positions in the last 3 years. There's going to come a time where we are providing a lot of leadership and a lot of our directors you're speaking about. So we're not proposing that, but if the committee feels like we need to propose, then we need to hear that. There's nothing that we're not prepared to talk about. Every director is here. If they need to understand, tell me about your position. Let's call them on screen and talk about their position. I just don't think we should be in the place of sort of cherry picking because there's a feeling of it being top heavy. And that's always comes out. There's always that perception. And if that's the school committee's wish to say in one voice, in one vote, that we should go back and remove whatever, then that's what we'll go back and do. But it doesn't get to the fact that we still have, everyone could argue, every one of us could argue for why every position in the district is important to kids. Whether it's a central office position or a classroom position or a restoration position or a vice principal or whatever the position, special education position, those positions were reduced by caseload. We have less students on IEPs and with English language support than because they've left the district. That's why it's scaled back. However, is a great opportunity, right, to preserve those positions, to double down and support the students that we do have with IEPs, with special needs, and who need English language support. You could make that argument for sure. But at some point, we're going to have to agree, because up until this budget cycle, $15 million increase is the price of doing business to provide a level service in our district. So if we're saying it doesn't matter that we have less kids because the need still exists, and I understand that argument, then we need to fund a $15 million budget. If we're going to do anything less than that and saying, well, something can go, we've tried to prioritize that. And people have come to the podium, and those voices were heard, and those positions got added back. And other voices were not heard and weren't added back. And other voices were added tonight for the first time, and it sounds like we're going to add that back. So it seems to me that if you come to the podium, you're going to get added back. Okay, we see the algorithm here. We've created a pattern. But we can't add everyone back, because if we do, we're right back at the $15 million number. So it comes a time that we have to make a decision on what we're going to do. And we could cut all of central office, everybody, people in this room, and we still won't balance this budget. So we've got to come up with a concrete number to go back to and figure this out. Because we keep dragging our feet on this thing, we're going to lose people anyway, because they're going to go because there's no decisions being made. So I know and I appreciate that it's a hard spot. It's been a really hard spot for us, too. So I don't know what those priorities are, but you could make an argument for every single position, because if it wasn't important, we wouldn't have it in place now. It's here because we built this to respond to our strategic priorities. This is impossible. All of these positions are important to the operation. So which ones are dispensable? I don't know. But we've got to figure that out, and we'll put our best foot forward. We tried to put forward schedule alignment because there were schedules that weren't full. It wasn't a reduction to programming. I get it, but there's emotion that drives these decisions. So we just need some direction. We'll come back and we'll cut whatever needs to be cut, if that is the goal. But if the goal is to say, preserve all $15 in positions increase, because that's what we needed in the first place to get to where we are today, regardless of the student decline, then it sounds like we need to go to the city for $15 million. I'm just not sure where to go, and I don't even think it's responsive to a question. But we need a number. We need a priority list, and we can bucket all of these based on student-facing and what we think is the priority. But at the end, it's going to have to come to a decision by the school committee.
I don't know what to say about all of this. We are not dragging our feet. We are also taking this very seriously. And I obviously do not believe that it's realistic to say don't cut anyone, absolutely. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that the compromise this feels like a lose-lose. Like, you'll go back and you'll come back, and some of these positions, people have spoken here, constituents reach out. It just, there continues to be a disconnect. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, I'm going to add my 2 cents on some of these positions. I feel like some of these positions, maybe I can kind of get behind supporting your reductions. I remember when we added the campus aides in time of undesired student behaviors, and now it seems like just with the student numbers, it seems like there's a formula and that this number could be reduced. I would be concerned with reducing them to what maybe the district is recommending, but I think there are some positions on this list that maybe we can make a little bit of movement on tonight as far as a committee to try to meet the number, even if it's just shaving it a little bit off. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Moshe, and we'll keep this conversation going.
Thank you. I'm just wondering before our next meeting, the staffing thresholds, the ratios are varying, but there's no benchmarks that have been provided to us. So I'm wondering what staffing ratios or caseload levels does the district consider high risk or unsustainable, sorry. I'm wondering if we can get some of that information, because there had to be some of those discussions in your meetings.
For which positions?
The ones that are on the chopping block. I mean, they're all different.
of them?
There's special ed, I mean, special ed is big. So I would be happy starting there in special ed.
So you want an explanation on the special education reductions?
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, so I think we have to call, you want to call upon Courtney or Lori, or, yeah, I think Courtney tonight, yeah. So Courtney, are you able to come on screen, and thanks for being on deck?
Sure, absolutely. Ms. Moshe, can you do me, help me better understand the question or rephrase it? What specifically are you looking for in terms of caseloads? There are many different roles. I think if we want to go role by role, there are a lot of nuances to sort of like caseload caps. We don't have caseload caps in the district, so we have to, when we look at special education positions at the school level, we look at minutes of service delivery on all of the IEPs for every individual student within a building, as well as specialized programming and any baseline staffing structures for those programs, as well as whether the students how many students are in inclusion, how many students are partially included, how many students are in substantially separate programming, and what their individual services look like. Also alongside how many students and actual IEPs are serviced in a school, and then what those services look like and which different providers are responsible for them. So I think my question would just be to better have a better understanding of what specific information I can give you. I'm happy to.
We have no data. We have nothing. We just have positions that are being considered, and just because I'm trying to understand the whole process here, Lori Bruce, does she not have any part of doing the staffing for special ed, or is that through Ms. Balaco?
Sure. Ms. Bruce does. Unfortunately, she had a prior commitment that was previously scheduled, and she was unable to be here this evening. I did share with the committee an email response to CPAC, which provided some context and information around the numbers of students on IEPs in each of our school buildings, as well as how many fewer students in each of those buildings are on IEPs. For instance, at the high school, there are 74, I'd have to pull it up, less students on IEPs as compared to last year. That's one data piece. And it sort of went through some of the different considerations that are considered on an annual basis for special education staffing for different, for special ed teachers, assistant teachers, and aides. I'm happy to pull that up and go through it with you all if that would be helpful, to talk about how many students are on IEPs in each school, how many fewer students this year as opposed to last year are on IEPs.
I think we all got that email.
Yeah.
We got it yesterday. So I don't know.
So Jen, we provided an update. I'm assuming you saw it. The rates was broken down by every school, every position with the impact analysis. Do you want us to go through that?
We're getting a lot of feedback about special ed.
Sure.
And I guess my question is, are these the correct amounts to be cutting within the schools for services of the kids who are needing the most support?
Sure. So generally speaking, I can say that the positions that were proposed to be reduced do allow students to maintain the services that they're currently receiving. When we look at staffing as a generality in special education, we're always looking at ensuring that we are able to provide all of the services that a student's IEP calls for. In some places, we have additional staffing position, and we'd love, like as others have said, we of course don't want to have to be making any cuts. And at the same time, we have had a reduction in enrollment. And so we do have to look at how many fewer students we're serving and how many staff we do have to serve that same number of students, and come to a conclusion about, can we continue to maintain what we're currently providing to those students with fewer staff based on the number of reduced positions. And so that was the basis for any of the special education reductions that were proposed.
Thank you. I'll have more questions, but just not right now.
All right, I lost track. Who's next? Nobody? Go ahead, Mr. Adam.
The district suggested a specific number. I believe that an achievable number is the number tied directly to our contract, which is a 9.313780 increase. That is about $3 million off from the mayor's current number, but does not take into account what we've talked about, the new Chapter 70 of 402,000, the healthcare cost savings, and the potential to use some free cash. That number, of course, would shift based on the committee's priorities, but I believe we should be taking specific votes for our budget to restore certain positions at a number that would meet a number similar to that and give the mayor the advocacy and the exact details on what specific positions and why for each of those restorations above the former CFO's number that was given to us. I know it's hard. I believe that's the best way to go. And if we were going to take a series of votes, then I would start by accepting the district's recommendation that was in last week's meeting packet. And then we should have a serious conversation about positions that have been talked about, whether they're at the podium, by email, or by ourselves. It doesn't matter. We should have that serious conversation. It's our budget. We should take roll call votes on each of those restorations. And if that's tonight, great. And if that's at our meeting in 3 weeks, great. I believe that that number is achievable through the city's process. Thank you.
You think taking votes on the restoration is more effective than taking votes on the approved cuts on the list? So for example, would your recommendation be, instead of not voting to reduce the health teacher, vote to restore the health teacher? Does that make sense?
That's a very hard question, but I think I lean towards what you were generally just saying.
Okay. Brent?
One of the things I've been mindful about being part of this budget process in the last, as we are considering cuts, is that it impacts our ability to look forward to the next budget year and the needs of our students in a way that lets us be creative. So I would love for us to be able to take some votes with a larger dollar amount in mind, provide some guidance around positions that we think are important to continue our strategic priorities for the school committee, but also give some leeway to the school department to, per Adam's earlier suggestion, go back and prioritize accordingly to where you all see the need. And I appreciate how much work that is.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Brent. And Jen, I want to apologize to you because I was caught up in the emotion of it all. And when you made a suggestion to automatically cut every position that has a retirement, I shook my head no while you were talking. So I'm sorry about that. And so that was not appropriate of me. And so I just want to say that for the record, I distracted you. I disagreed with what you said, but I didn't do it in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So to be clear, are we soliciting motions to restore specific positions on this list?
I will accept a motion to restore a position. I will also accept a motion to approve reducing a position.
I move to restore the restorative interventionist positions.
All right, so that's Thayer, moved by Mr. Shepherd, seconded by Mr. Freudberg. Walsh, Fuller. Is that it, those three? Cameron?
There are four of them, middle schools and
Okay.
then one of the high school.
Got it. All right, any discussion? Go ahead.
I support this motion, but I also want us to think about the hardness of what order we go in. Because what if everyone agrees that my $3 million over the mayor's number is the right number, right? And then we get into the order and then it's just the motion of our hands raised. That's not fair. So maybe we have a mindset of what are the most vulnerable students in our community that need the support. And I do think that this motion does align with that. And as we go forward beyond this one motion, we should really have those common goals in mind as we go forward, so it's not the randomness of who makes it the next motion first.
Any further discussion? All right, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor, raise your hand. Do we have 9 hands up? All right, 9-0. All right, so we're going to restore those positions. We voted to restore those positions.
Point of order, is it possible to get the financial impact of those 4 positions and going forward to understand it as well?
Yes. $254,086.
To restore.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Having already made the first motion, from here on out, should we be voting to add positions to a list that once it gets to the amount of money that, to Mr. Freudberg's, what was it, 3 million? That, or somewhere close to it, that we then vote on as a list so that we're not, getting to the last person, realize we've left something out that we find very important.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just process-wise, I think we should make the full disclaimer that everything we're doing tonight is to continue to shape an iterative process that won't be officially submitted until March 4th. So while we shouldn't, if we can do it, go backwards, we should make it clear that anything that happens tonight is another adjustment to a long-term process, and that we have another meeting on the 25th, another meeting on the 4th, we'll continue to develop it. So we don't have to do everything now, but if there are core priorities that we are just like, no, and we can give some peace of mind to some staff that we're going to advocate for, understanding that it will take until about May to have the final budget known if we are going to a different number. It's a hard process, but I'm glad you raised that point. To answer Mr. Lynch's question, should the committee entertain that motion he mentioned earlier about accepting the revisions from our last meeting that restored certain positions such as ESL, SAGE, and more? We haven't yet voted on that. I am very comfortable with that motion, but again, don't want to jump ahead of other hands. Thank you.
Right, they're not currently in the proposed reductions, so I don't know if a vote is needed, but I'm happy to take one if it's showing our strength of support of those positions.
Yeah, since Mr. Lynch, I believe, pushed pretty hard for that certainty, I would lean yes versus not in that one scenario based on last week's. Because as we're talking, that slide with that list, those are not currently proposed to be cut, but we haven't yet, as a team, voted for that. We voiced support verbally, but as you mentioned, Madam Chair, or Jessica, the will of the majority by a vote is the only real way to do it. So,
Ms. Moshe, thank you.
I just have a question as we're restoring positions. When we send it through to the mayor, to city council, if we don't get what we're proposing, how do we explain that to staff that could have potentially gone to find another job if their position ultimately may be cut? I think we have to be mindful of that. And we need to be fair.
Thank you for your comment. Up next, Mr. Robles, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I wanted to go back to your comment, Adam, because we do still have a couple of ESL teachers here on the proposal. So we may need to vote if we're deciding no ESL teachers or staff related to ESL will be cut.
Okay, sure. We don't have a motion on the floor either, so that was a good point.
Madam Chair, if I could clarify?
Sure.
I was talking specifically to the document the district submitted for our January 28th meeting that restored specific positions at that meeting. You're right, it didn't cover every single category of ESL, but at least it's what's in the current budget draft from the district. And so if we at least had agreement on that, not to speak for the group, that would help Mr. Lynch, is the sense I took from him. Thank you.
So there are 2 ESL teachers on the most current list at the high school to be cut. So just in response to Rich. Yep.
So I'd like to move that we reinstate the 2 ESL teachers at the high school.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll go.
Oh, I have a question. How many ESL teachers are there at the high school currently? To be clear, I think that, in this, in these discussions, proportional decreases are more defensible than those that go beyond the drop in that student population.
Good evening. There are 16 ESL teachers at Framingham High School.
$16 total with the 2 reduction proposed.
Included in that 16.
Included in that 16. Thank you.
And Mark, and that is 16 for how many students?
That number I'd have to research to get you exactly how many students. Because of the structure and the schedule of the high school, not all of the ESL students are served by all of those teachers, depending on what their RETA level is and what their access scores are at. And because we are really pushing forward with the rigor of the co-teaching model with academic teachers to serve our ESL population, especially in the 3s and the 2Bs, 3As, et cetera, it's not sort of a clean line. But I can certainly get a number for you of what the total number of students that are part of the EL program at the high school are.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Go ahead.
I don't know enough about this one. Is this one of these categories that a few years ago when enrollment surged at the high school, they were created and now it's kind of just, they're not needed anymore for class size reasons? I just want to get a little more clarity on this because I know how hard it is to cut down from the 15 million, but I do believe there are some positions that for specific enrollment changes may need to go. And I just don't know enough about this one, if this is in that bucket or not. Thank you.
I think it's a combination. So the reason we were able to have the 2 teachers on the 2 teaching positions on the list for this year is in large part the enrollment decline that had happened over the last year, but it's also a systematic approach that we're changing in the way that we support our EL students to make sure that they have the rigor and the similar experiences to the non-EL learners. So we're looking at lots of co-teaching and lots of modeling for our students that wasn't necessarily historically done. They were in sub-separate classes as a larger population. So systemically it's changed, which allowed the flexibility for these 2 positions to not significantly impact not only class size, but the experience, because we are shifting our model to provide more co-teaching academic rigor and similar experiences to our non-EL students for that population of kids. So, to the points of the questions earlier, these are very nuanced decisions. So the staff that are on the list for the high school are on the list for specific reasons. And, that was shared in that packet for you. If you have questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer, but we could probably have this conversation about many of the positions for the high school.
So motion stays. Maybe we should also just ask the question before we make the motion as well, just to get clarification. If there are any of these positions that are, have questions, people have questions. All right, so motion on the floor is seconded. Any further discussion?
You want the amount?
Sure.
136,726. 2 FTE. Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
Just as we're doing this, I'm keeping a running tally. And just so I'm on the same page, I should start at that 6.3 million number that's in the presentation tonight, and then we're adding back in. So I can assume the 1.2 million's back on federal, and then we're cutting the 1.7 million in expenses.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
May I ask one other, maybe I misheard this. Are we assuming then that the previous proposed reductions, so some of that's mentioned here, is all added back? There's not been a vote on that, right? So
The theater, the Sage, the other ESL, and we need to vote on it still. We're getting there. We need to vote on it still, but
okay, because I think we're operating, like when you're mentioning the ESL, it sounds like we're talking just about the second version, or the most recent proposal.
Right.
But that, I guess in my mind, does that presuppose that we never made the reductions, that like proposal one isn't a thing anymore?
I think if the committee wishes to speak and kind of solidify its investment in those programs and speak in that form, we can do that. It's not needed, but I think that if we want to assert our will of keeping those positions, that would be the only reason I would ask for a motion for those positions.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to keep the ESL positions. All those in favor, raise your hand. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed? 1, 8 to 1 passes. Thank you. Mr. Freudberg.
Madam Chair, based on what the superintendent just said, would you entertain a motion? I'm citing the budget memo from our last meeting that is reflected in tonight's presentation, where the district proposed restoration of certain positions by reducing expenses, by taking that risk on federal funding that has since paid off, and has restored, I'm scrolling through the memo, positions, I want to be very specific, Sage, Mandarin, ESL, chorus, theater, partial McKinney-Vento were the only ones that looked like they had a fiscal impact. So I would make that motion.
I second.
Can you repeat that? So we have a motion on the floor to restore Sage, Mandarin.
I'm reading exactly from that memo. The motion would be to agree to that memo that agreed to the reduction of district expenses, agreed to the federal funding shift, reinstate the Sage positions, the Mandarin position, the ESL position, the chorus position, theater positions, and the 0.6 of the McKinney-Vento coordinator. That ends the motion to align with Mr. Lynch's presentation that he's been using the last two meetings. I believe that by passing this motion, we will check the box and give consensus if it passes to then move forward. And we'll also close by saying there was no additional new fiscal impact to the city. This aligns with that current 6.3 number the superintendent just mentioned. Thank you.
So moved by Mr. Freudberg, seconded by Mr. Robles. Would you consider adding the 0.4 back to the McKinney-Vento as part of that?
I was waiting for someone to say that, so absolutely I would support that. So
Okay.
if it helps, I would amend the motion to make that.
So that will have a budget impact too, okay.
I still second that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Brent, you had your hand up.
It was about the McKinney-Vento, so thank you.
Oh, sorry. Great minds. Anyone else? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Adam, seconded by Mr. Robles, by Rich. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, 9-0. Okay. Mr. Lewis, go ahead, Brent.
I'd like to make a motion to restore the Director of diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a position that last year this body, a majority of it, voted to preserve, and I think we should continue that work.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lewis, seconded by Mr. Labarge. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Brent, for making this motion. I would love it if this became a position that wasn't on the chopping block when there's a budget crisis going forward. I totally understand why the district has to propose a balanced budget. This position was, Dr. Tremblay, your initiative in 2018. You have received national attention. You have been at conferences. This is a really impactful position. And I haven't met the new person yet, but from everything I've heard and all the emails we've received as a committee, feel like it would be a major shift in priorities to just eliminate this position. So I support it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to echo the same thing. I actually attended the presentations for this, for the candidates for this position. I know a lot of care and time and effort went into the search for this very critical role, and so I'd like to see it be reinstated as well.
Madam Chair, if I may, thank you for that. And I want to just also thank the committee for going through this very difficult process tonight. This really helps us to go back to the work. And again, it probably doesn't need to be said, but I feel like it does, that when we put these positions forward, and Mr. Furberger, Adam, thank you for those comments. These are not cuts that we wanted to make. Like, we didn't feel they were necessary. I just feel like that needs to be said again and again and again, because it wasn't like, oh yeah, we don't need that. It was making an impossible decision out of the impossible situation. But I would say, as the committee goes through and considers and deliberates, while that position at the central office is, again, it's a central office position, so just to be clear on that. However, I also think that if we're going to give consideration there, we should really give some consideration to the more direct student-facing position that also has come up, and that may be something that you consider. But if we're going to talk about committing to this work and our strategic priorities, then we should really commit to the staffing level that has that direct interfacing with kids. Not that our director doesn't do that, right? I interface with kids too, but not at the level, at that classroom school level. And I think we need to really think about how we can use that to more deeply move our strategic priorities. I just want the committee to consider that as well, because it does seem contrary to adding back a central office position. So I would just offer that if we're going to consider that, we should also think simultaneously about the more direct student-facing position as well. Thank you.
Can we add DEI coach to that motion as well, the fuller position? Any objection? Who made that motion? Brent, you're agreeable to just add that in?
Yes, of course.
So that's just the one fuller DEI coach. Is there anything else that we want to add onto that one? And second, you agree?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Thank you for making that change, that slight change.
You want the amount?
Yes, please.
So for the two FTE, it's $202,913.
Okay. Any further discussion before we vote on this?
Sorry, is it the DEI consultant?
It's the fuller coach, and it's the director of community belonging and engagement, correct? Director of belonging and school culture.
That's correct. Correct. It's a DEI coach at Fuller.
All right, all those are in favor of restoring those two positions, raise your hand. 9-0, okay.
Madam Chair, if I could just come on, I just pulled the numbers for ELL for Mr. Robles. Just as a point of reference while we're in the meeting, it's 324 students at Framingham High School currently active as English language learners.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, are there any motions to approve reductions for any of the enrollment, positions based on enrollment? Ms. Dyer?
Are we finished with adding things?
We can go either direction.
Because I would make a motion to reinstate the health teachers.
All right, move to reinstate health teachers.
Second.
Second by Mr. Shepherd. Any further discussion? Mr. Freudberg.
Focus on the number first before the actual aspect, because I do strongly support health education. Mr. Lynch, could you give the financial impact of this motion, as well as, there was one number as I keep keeping track, what the .4 McKinney-Vento restoration fiscal impact would be, so we can understand that aspect. And then I would like us to have a conversation about what the health proposal means. I'm not convinced it's tied to enrollment based on just the written memo, and I would thank you for bringing that up. I know we can't possibly restore everything, but this is one, as I look at kind of the framework of, you mentioned earlier, student suffering, student impacts. This one, to me, automatically goes there. And I don't want any time on learning reductions to the health specials at fifth grade that have been added in recent years. And this should be a growth area, not a cut area. So, but I also am not in the weeds of this, so just raise that for any member or district responses beyond the fiscal impact. Thank you.
Okay, the McKinney-Vento .4 is 36,250 added back in. And then the health teachers, 4 health teachers, 3 elementary and 1 district health teacher, 4.0 FTE is $273,452. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to speak to Mr. Freuberg's questions with regard to health, if that would be helpful.
Sure.
Sure. And our Director of Health and Wellness, Siobhan Lord, is also here with me as well. So Siobhan, feel free to add on if I miss anything. But you're correct, Mr. Freuberg. The recommendation from the district and principals in terms of reducing health was not an enrollment-based recommendation, rather a programmatic recommendation. And so I know in previous meetings we've talked about the 55-minute health block that was originally scheduled to keep us in compliance with the CBA as well around specials and planning time and things of that nature. So our goal, of course, was, as you mentioned, to gradually increase adding a 1.0 health teacher at the elementary level across all 9 elementary schools, with 1 at each school, which we've been working towards. However, with budget reductions, that has been, in one piece, slowed down tremendously, and projecting into the future, I think envisioning adding positions this year or in the future to continue moving us towards 9.0, there's a real question about feasibility from a fiscal perspective. I think from a values perspective, we're all there 100%. I think there's tremendous value in having health education from K to 5. And so the question really becomes, how do we offer that to students? And so within the proposal, 2 things. 1, 6 of our elementary schools have had that 1.0, and then the other remaining 3 for the last 2 years have had a float model where 1 health educator teaches at each school on a trimester basis. Feedback from some of our health educators who actually left the district, we had some turnover in these positions, was that a 55-minute special at all levels from K to 5 as the 5th special may be more in terms of time on learning for students with health than is developmentally necessary from their experience. The other piece being thinking through how can we service and provide a K to 5 health experience for all of our students in an equitable way, because currently, as you saw in that memo, the schools that have the float model do have much less time on learning, although they still do have a K to 4 health experience, and that maintains Michelle Kinsella's 5th grade health block as well, with very critical puberty lessons for students prior to entering middle school, and having that education as well. So the proposed model would shift to effectively a more equitable model that also addresses some of the concerns from our health education leaders around how it's delivered and when, so still delivering it, but changing it does reduce the time on learning for the schools that have a 1.0, but making it sustainable, appropriate for students at all grade levels, ensuring they're still getting those essential lessons, and is more feasible long-term budgetarily. So that's the sort of the number of things that we considered as we looked at shifting that model. Siobhan, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I just would emphasize that the model that we're talking about shifting to would keep the 5th grade health the same across all of the 9 elementary schools. So all our 5th graders would continue to get the same, equitable time with Ms. Kinsella.
Just one follow-up is, I understand 5th grade, but what about the younger grades? It seemed like there would be a reduction of time on learning from what's currently offered this school year versus if this cut went through the future for grades 1 through 4.
That is correct. So it would shift. So those schools would have a reduced amount of K-4 health education minutes. They still would receive health education, but it would be less. Additionally, I just think it's important to talk about that some of our SEL lessons are delivered separately from health. So our social emotional behavioral coaches are doing tier 1 SEL lessons, and that is not impacted in any way, which is an essential piece of health curriculum, all the social emotional learning lessons, as well as the students will still get bullying prevention lessons as well, regardless of the shift. So it really becomes sort of a targeted reduction to ensure we're still providing essential curricular lessons while also creating a bit more equity across all of our schools so that all students across the district have the same access to health and health education.
Okay, thank you. So my simple takeaway from this is not tied to enrollment, and this is a reduction of curriculum services and cutting health. So I would support the motion. I also understand that the fiscal impact of this, if it passes with everything else, is around $1 million, and I feel like we're making really good progress on supporting the most vulnerable cuts to our district to date. Thank you.
All right, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? This is for the health teacher, restoring the health positions. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, all those opposed? 1. So it's 8 to 1, 0. Okay.
Would it be possible to get a fact check on my math, Mr. Lynch, on kind of what we just did? Thank you.
Fact check? Like, you want to give it to me and I'll tell you if you're right?
No, I don't have my calculator out. It was all my head. It was
I think you just means the total add back, right? The total add back to.
Yeah. So far we've added 13.4 positions back in, $903,427. So we're currently at $7,216,784 as an increase for next year. Close?
Thank you. Well, I just guessed $1 million, so it was 903. So you win.
Yep.
All right, up next, Mr. Robles.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Jen, I don't know if this is what you were talking about before, but I wonder if we can make some progress here in some of the proposals. So I'm looking at Potter Road. This is just an example. I'm not picking on this particular role. Special education assistant, 1 FTE. I see here the description, the impact, but at the bottom we have this position is currently vacant and will not be filled. Are these the roles that we need to make a decision on and say, all right, we haven't had them, they're not going to be filled, we just need to vote on those roles tonight and say we move forward with those?
Yes. Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I would say yeah. My
Is that what you
recommendation.
were, do we make a motion for that?
Yeah, go through the list and I'll accept whatever motion you want to make.
I would make a motion that we move forward with those roles that are vacant and will not be filled.
Okay, but we need to just clarify. My Chrome just crashed for a second. Sorry, it's going to take me a second to find the memo. So just we want to put it on record with the exact positions that are listed. So let me just pull up the memo.
Yeah.
And then do you want to read off the ones that you have? And
These are the ones that I see on the memo. So Dunning, Campus Aid, 1 FTE, currently vacant, will not be filled.
You have a special ed at Dunning as well.
One person at a time. Hold on. Go ahead. Next one.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was like, there's no capacity. Dunning
Yeah.
Campus 8 is what I have.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah, the Dunning one. I'm taking it from the top here. I'm going through the list.
Of vacant.
Vacant, not going to be filled. The next one is Hemingway, special education teacher. Currently vacant, not to be filled. Next is King, campus aide.
Got it.
And Lincoln, keep me honest here if I'm skipping any of these.
I will.
Then we have Potter Road, special education assistant.
Vacant.
Yep. There's one in Stapleton, special education assistant. This person is currently in this role, will bump into a position that will become open due to retirement. Is that one that we can consider?
Assume
into this?
vacancy?
Yes.
Okay. Is that, what's the job, the title? Special Stapleton?
Special education assistant. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Got it.
And let me see here. All right, Fuller, campus aides. We have 4. One of these positions is currently vacant and will not be filled. So 1.
So 1 out of the 4 proposed.
The other 3 employees will be impacted. So we're looking at 1.
So just on your list is the 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Then we go to Walsh, campus aides. Both of these positions are currently vacant and will not be filled.
And there are more at Walsh.
I'm looking, hold on.
There are. It's not, we're not cutting all of the ones that exist at Walsh. If this passes.
Can we get a check on that if, yeah.
There's one that we missed, Fuller assistant teacher. It's kind of split between 2 different pages. so-
Oh, I see it, you're right. Fuller, assistant teacher, special education,
Yes,
currently vacant,
correct.
not filled. Judy, you said missed one?
I think
McCarthy,
you
she said?
missed McCarthy. It's a retirement. And will not
Oh,
be
that's
filled.
right, there's a retirement.
I think
Let
there
me go
might
back
be
to it.
other retirements too, if you want to do that all together.
Yeah,
So we're going to add the retirements to this one.
yeah. So
McCarthy.
McCarthy, teacher, classroom reduction, yeah, retirement.
Okay.
Okay, going down the list.
Was that Fuller?
So we were at Fuller, so we have Fuller, yeah, the campus aide was the last one, 1 out of the 4.
Walsh Campus Aid was the
Yeah.
next one.
Walsh campus aide.
I'm not reading these again, so pay attention,
I
everybody.
know.
So be
Let's go to FHS.
All right.
I'm looking through the list. All right, so we have the special education assistant teacher retiring.
The family liaison, too.
Yeah, and the family liaison vacant and will not be filled.
At FHS?
Yes,
Thank
this is
you.
all FHS right now. We have Dean of Students. It says the individual currently in this role will be bumped into a teaching role currently occupied by a non-PTS employee.
That is not an open
That is not-
position.
Yeah,
It's not an open.
okay.
So we're leaving that one off.
No, that's off.
Okay.
There is a vacant special education position. There's also a retirement of a special education department chair
At there or the high school?
at the high school.
High school.
Yeah, special.
Lincoln, is that all of them? Did I miss any?
I think
I
that's
think
it,
that's it.
yeah. For the schools.
Oh, we got, hold on, Mr. Robles is still up.
It was,
Link, sorry to pardon to interrupt. I believe there is one additional retirement. Principal DiDonato's here who can speak to that.
Stapleton.
You're muted still.
No, Lisa is.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I think you need to speak up a
Barely,
little
yeah.
bit, though. You're a little quiet.
Sure. I have a special education assistant retiring as well as a student support specialist that is retiring.
Where is this?
Are those on the list?
Stapleton.
Oh, Stapleton.
Should be, yes.
Yes, sorry, Stapleton.
That was special education assistant at Stapleton, and
And we had two campus aides that have recently resigned. So they will not be returning. Those will be open positions that will not be refilled.
I don't think
Two
those are on our list, though. I don't know. I mean,
Those were in the last day and a half. But if we're voting on all of them at one point.
we're just going off of our memo, the ones that were
Okay.
proposed by the district, but I think that's good to know.
I think we're done with the high school, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a buildings and grounds position that's, Jen just wanted to flag for you.
Rotator position.
Yeah, we haven't gone to headquarters here. Yeah, let's include that one.
Can we just go back to the high school, just so we're on the same page? Is the family liaison, it was the special ed assistant teacher,
Yep.
and then special ed,
It's lumped in the special education teacher, one of the three impacted.
just
teachers
one,
retiring,
just one. Okay.
Yeah, one
It's,
of the
it's,
three.
it's one open position that's currently vacant for special education at the high school. And then it's a retirement of a second position, which is only a partial position that they are a department chair.
Oh, I see. Thanks, Mark.
So there's two. Two
So there's two.
teaching positions, special ed, okay,
Correct.
okay.
Okay, does that complete your motion?
Yes. Folks, I know that's a long list and it was hard to keep track of those here. Yeah.
Wait, so hold on, do we not do the custodian rotator, this position is currently vacant, will not be filled? Buildings and grounds, if you scroll down a little bit.
No, we're including that.
That's, so
Yes.
B and G. The communication specialist is also on there, it's vacant currently, and, Amy Kane is doing a lot of the work.
And I think we get down to HR. I think we're good.
So we added communication specialist to that? So motion to approve these reductions.
Can I, you missed the teaching and learning coordinator. That position became vacant a couple of weeks ago and is not scheduled to be refilled.
Teaching and learning coordinator, okay. Position became vacant on January 14th. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that note.
So
Okay.
let's see. Okay, Judy, you're up next, and then we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second for that motion first? Second by Ms. Moshe. Okay, discussion.
No, I didn't know if you wanted to add this one to that list. It's not quite the same, but it's a social worker or school counselor at FHS that does not carry a caseload. So I'm not sure what that person does, but
Mark.
Yeah, can we get a clarification on that, Mr. Albright? We're asking about a school counselor that does not currently carry a caseload.
Sure. So we have a transition counselor that's assigned to the Student Success Academy, and they work with all of the students that are part of the SSA on their transition work from high school to what they're going to do when they graduate. And they do not carry a traditional caseload. There are traditional counselors that carry the SSA as part of their constituent group. So that's what that position is. It's a transition counselor position, which was recently added to assist Student Success Academy students with their transition work from high school to careers or college afterwards.
Did you want to ask for that to be
That is
included?
that's not a vacant position.
No, it's
will
not, but
result in a reduction.
yeah, just curious if it's something you would want to hold on to.
I'd like to hold on to everything, Ms. Steyer.
Got it.
Bottom line is that is not vacant
All right,
right
it's
now,
not
so
gonna
we
go
will
to
not
that
include it.
list.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Brent?
I would love to pull out the communications position at central office. I know that's something we've talked about, and I think that merits a wider conversation. Also, with our framework of supporting the students with the greatest need, I would love for us to pull out the family liaison for a bit more conversation.
What do you think?
I think it warrants a conversation, so I'll amend my motion to pull those two roles out of this list.
So communications is removed from our list of proposed reductions, and family liaison. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, is that sorry.
Go ahead, Jen.
The family liaison, are you just talking about the one at the high school?
That was the one on the list that was vacant. Okay, Adam.
Clarify.
Thank you. I'm going to hold my communications topics for our next meeting, so I'm glad you did that. I believe that we can't restore everything, and I was curious if the district could think about a proposal to have a 0.25 or a 0.5 if we can't get a full, and would just pause there and just say, I'm glad it's withdrawn from the motion, so we can think about that with a little more thought, understanding all the disclaimers. It's about those in front of kids first, but as I have gone door to door and just in this role, like that is one of the single biggest challenges, school communication. It's not just here, it's all across the nation. But so anyway, I raised my hand initially because I don't really like this motion, to be blunt. I appreciate the fact that it's of course easier to, eliminate positions where there's no human beings in them. I do think that a lot of these positions based on enrollment can be reduced, so I agree with the sentiments. I just don't think that a blanket motion like this is the best solution to a problem because it's a bit random to me. It's where are things currently in the HR process? It's who's choosing to retire at this point in their life versus who's not. And I think that we should use the 30 days we have under the charter and think about not taking this vote right at this moment in time. We could maybe take it in 3 weeks. Thanks for listening.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Go ahead, Jen. Do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I disagree with you. I think we need to make progress. I think cutting positions that are not affecting humans and their lives right now, I think is important to reduce that impact.
All right, we will go. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
I politely disagree. I think it's a good idea to have further discussion and use the 30 days, the 30-day extension. So just wanted to echo Mr. Frogberg's.
Okay, Adam, do you have your hand up?
I mean, just to thank you for that. Again, like we have 30 extra days. We've made a lot of progress. I do feel like a lot of these positions won't be filled anyway, and I think that will help with a lot of reasons. But again, I would like to have a little more time to do the deep dive onto what this blanket motion means while I followed along on the spreadsheet. I'm not going to ask you to go through it again and restate the motion. I just do feel like this specific motion is unnecessary tonight.
Having said that, we are going to do a vote. We'll go all those in favor. Comment?
I just want to say we did remove 2 positions from the list that we thought warranted extra consideration. Are there any more that we would want to take out and table till later that would maybe get you more towards saying you're okay taking the vote tonight?
If I can respond to that.
Sure.
I think this is such an important motion that it should be shared on the screen. We should have the spreadsheet in front of us. We should know exactly what we're voting on, and I can answer your specific question with that. That's what I mean. We don't have that ready tonight, and so I would recommend a motion to table.
Seconded.
All right, motion to table.
Just to clarify, I would need someone else to make a motion to table from a parliamentary procedure piece because I just spoke, so if you don't mind amending.
I will make a motion to table.
All right,
I'll second.
motion to table, second by Kyle. We will do that motion. Any discussion for tabling? Go ahead.
I'm just going to say that, now that I'm listening to all of you, and especially what you said, Kyle, there might be some roles here that we haven't dived deep into to really understand. Just because it's vacant doesn't mean that we may not need it. So I hear you. Yeah, thanks for saying that.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Indeed, I am.
Okay, so there's no motion. Okay. All right. Any further discussion on this topic? We're going to move on.
Are we preserving that list as a starting point?
Yeah, we can. That's a great idea.
We have it preserved, yes.
Thank you, Lincoln.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Rich.
I also want to say that we do owe it to everyone, Adam, to have it on the screen with details and the written notes of the impact on students. So that was helpful to hear too.
Great. All right, seeing no other hands in this topic, we are going to move on from. No, because he removed his motion, so there's no tabling motions. Doesn't matter anymore. Okay.
Madam Chair, just one point just to help transition this. You may be doing this too, but I think it'd be very helpful just to reconfirm our revised schedule on the record with our new long-term agenda we set tonight and the upcoming vote to the mayor. So am I right that the 30 days extended our original deadline of February 8th till approximately, with what, 28 days in February, March 5th?
I have March 4th as our vote to send to the mayor.
I mean, technically, we have till the 5th or the 6th, but so you're right. So our next meeting is on February 25th, where we can continue this discussion, and then the vote to send it to the mayor is March 4th.
Correct.
It sounds like I'm validated. Thank you for that, Madam Chair. And then my final question would be, does the district, after hearing all of this, have any questions for us on how we can both partner together so you understand what's in the next packet, you understand what's going to be happening the next 3 weeks as you go on with these conversations? I just want to make sure we don't leave the budget conversation without any unanswered questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. Do you have any? Okay. So we started at 15.1 million, and the only reductions to that number so far have been the 1.7 million reduction in expenses and the 1.2 million in federal grants. That's it. So where we're at right now is 12,174,000. That is our current increase. So for the next packet, that's where I'll start and get to the mayor's number, and that's the budget gap that we have to close. Does that sound like we're on the same page?
Repeat that number.
Sure. The total where we're at, $12,174,802. So we've cut 2.95 million so far out of the 15.1 million we started with.
Okay.
Okay?
Brett.
Thank you.
We've reached the point where I think we're looking at positions that I certainly don't have clear details on what would be most beneficial for our schools. I know early we talked about you all proposing budgets or a revision to the budget and the proposed cuts with a certain dollar amount in mind. I think Adam floated $3 million beyond what we were considering before. Would it be helpful to have a motion to charge you to do that?
As a goal to get to? So if we can, just back up one step. So if we're going to revise the list, all of the positions that were reinstated tonight are totally off the list now. So that increases the budget gap. So yeah, if there's a number that you want to propose as a goal for us to get to, that would be helpful.
I'm not certain about that yet, so let's hold off on a minute. What I was going to say is the executive branch number was 6.3 million, and we just added 902,000 up above it. So are we then at 7.2, or is there a different number? That's the number I'm focused on.
7.2.
So we're at 7.2. Okay. So that helps me going forward into our meeting in 3 weeks, knowing that we're slightly over, but not too far over. And as I mentioned, I strongly believe that that could be paid for by the new Chapter 70 in healthcare before even talking about free cash, additional free cash. So setting a number, even though I appreciate your intention, is still really hard. I was targeting something versus nothing that was tied to a contract or a series of contracts. I think understanding the fiscal impact of the motion that was just made and withdrawn is helpful for the next meeting, if you don't have it now, as we continue these deliberations, and we can look at, all right, is adding 902,000 back enough? And are we done? Or do we want to keep going slightly higher because of whatever shapes your own views about, to me, it's the most pressing needs in our community. And adding a little bit more up in 3 weeks could be something this group decides. But setting a number on arbitrarily what that is officially right now, also to the last motion, feels slightly unnecessary. But to your point, and I'll close with this, and maybe there's a motion, maybe there's not, but I think the district should take into consideration what we're working on together with every voice that's been heard, and think about if there was a way to restore 500K, a million, 1.5, even smaller scale, what would you really want to prioritize that you've said so far you regret proposing these cuts? What are now of the remaining list, whether they're vacant, retirement, or proposed current people? What's really important to you so we can understand your views? Because what you put in the packet tonight was so helpful to me to understand your views, and I want that to continue for our final budget meetings over the coming weeks. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Robles, and then we're going to move on.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for our mayor. So you've been listening to this, and you can see that we're wrestling with this. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to close the gap with the numbers that we have, the possibilities of our FTEs here. What might you need from us to make a reasonable request of the City Council if we need, to go above and beyond the numbers that your CFO proposed?
I'm not sure how to answer that. What I would need from you is more money. Seriously, you're adding more money to a budget that we can hardly afford now without using up all our free cash. What we haven't talked about, or you haven't talked about in your meetings, is what the deficit is on the city side. We have the similar problems. We have contracts that we have to fund. We're looking at a gap of $7 million next year in the health insurance fund. A lot of it pays for teachers' health insurance. That's part of that $50 million that doesn't show up in your budget. We have other costs. We have non-discretionary costs that we have to pay for. There's only a fixed amount of revenue, and as you keep adding more money back to the budget that Lincoln proposed, you're sucking up all of the new revenue, and either it gets approved by the council and forces us to use all the free cash to pay the city side gap. You're asking us to do the impossible. And I understand, and that's why I've been sitting through these meetings to listen to the pleas to put back positions and not cut positions, and I empathize with that, but we got to look at the facts. We have a limited amount of funds, and we can't fund everything that needs to be funded. And thank you.
Absolutely, Kelly.
So I don't think I can answer that question.
Anything like we're going to continue this conversation at our next meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, can we let principals and directors go?
Yes.
They've been on all night, so
Thank
you all for being here.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We're closing out this segment for continued conversation on the budget, and we will pick this up where we left off. Subcommittee reports, finance and operations. Mr. Labarge, you're going to report on warrants first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the warrant total, we have a total of $3,620,007.01 and payroll total of $11,882. No, $11,882,523.57 on the dates of January 19th and January 26th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to liaison reports. Up first, CPAC, Ms. Moshe.
Thank you. I received an email from CPAC, and I'm summarizing. If I missed something, I apologize. CPAC families and educators raised concerns about the district's proposed special education staffing reductions, especially given the district-wide budget shortfall, suggesting that staffing decisions are not related to the budget. The reality that students' needs and IEP service demands fluctuate throughout the year. It was asked if, for transparency to actual data behind the reductions, including caseloads by school, staffing ratios, service delivery requirements, criteria used to reduce or reinstate positions, the specific numbers, minutes, workloads guiding these decisions. The core question was, if needs remain fluid and services are legally mandated, how can special education positions be reduced, and what data is being used to justify that? The district, I did share it with the district. A bunch of other people also emailed the district with similar questions, and they put together a response. And a summary from the district was, special education staffing is reviewed annually through a district-wide process based on caseload ratios, total IEP service minutes, scheduling, and pragmatic needs. Staffing decisions intersect with the budget, but are also driven by enrollment and service needs. They emphasize that no staffing reductions will result in the removal of required IEP services. The district will reallocate or add staff mid-year if needs increase. Staffing is not a set and forget. They stated that special education enrollment has declined by 114 students district-wide since last year, and they provided a table showing IEP counts by schools, staffing totals, teacher-to-student ratios, proposed reductions in a few buildings, which they shared with the CPAC team, and they offered to attend a future CPAC meeting to discuss further.
Any other liaison reports? Seeing none. Approval of gifts and minutes, field trips. Gifts, motion to accept the gifts for Cameron Fine and Performing Arts District in Barberry. Items include interpreter services, violin, 2 AP exams for all junior and senior high school students, treats for Kindness Week, and grant for writing and recording school song. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
This motion is seconded by Mr. Labarge. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. We got 9 hands up, 9-0. Next up, we have a motion to approve advertising for the donation for writing and recording a school song to consist of their logo being included in the marketing materials. Is there a motion to accept?
So move.
By Mr. Labarge.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Shepherd. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. 9 hands up. All right, 9-0 passes. Additional public comment. It's 10:44. I'm going to give whoever we have time for before it turns to 11 o'clock 2 minutes to speak. I'll start on Zoom. Maria Margulis.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can, yep. You have 2 minutes. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. My name is Maria Luz Margulis, and I'm speaking on behalf of the CPAC. We appreciate the slowdown before making decisions about all these vacancies in special ed, because much more detailed information than what has been provided so far is required for transparency purposes, because in special education, a vacancy does not mean a position is unnecessary. A vacancy means there is already a gap, and today you guys have heard some of those public comments. When a teacher retires, resigns, or transfers, then it does not retire with them. The students remained, the IEP remains, the legally mandated services minutes remain, the workload remains. The only thing that disappears is the adult who was supposed to provide that support. And we have shared consistently, and educators have also shared that students' needs currently are not being fully met. with the current staffing right now. So eliminating vacant positions does not protect services. It locks in a shortage that already exists. It makes today's strain permanent. It shifts the burden onto the educators and the students who are already stretched thin. We also want to address the data that has been referenced to justify these reductions. The information shared relies primarily on ratios and enrollment counts, but ratios are not the same as needs. They do not show intensity of services. They do not differentiate between sub-separate programs, partial and inclusion classrooms. The data that we were provided was not differentiated. They don't capture the behavioral supports, the crisis
15
responses,
seconds.
the one-to-one needs, or the planning time. So our position is simple. If decisions are truly driven in data in the special education context, where things are supposed to be fluid, then special education positions cannot be treated as line items on a budget balancing spreadsheet tied to a district enrollment drop or a budget gap.
Thank you,
Nothing
that's
is more
time.
conflicting than that.
All right, up next we have in person Kimberly Manuel. 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Kimberly Manuel, and it is late, and I appreciate you all being here, and wow, what a Herculean effort you've already put through. I'm a teacher, an ELA teacher at Fuller Middle School, and what I've never admitted at this podium is that I am in my 3rd year of teaching and do not have professional teaching status. I love my job. I also know that just because this is my 4th time at the podium, I know that there is absolutely no promise I will be back next year because Fuller is still slated to lose 9 classroom teachers. Teachers build connections, and we are part of a skilled team, a team that complements each other's skills and personalities, and a team where student success is our first priority. We strategize, how to increase scores, encourage classroom participation, foster executive functioning skills, and minimize classroom disruptions, communicate with families, advocate for others, collect data for DESE, and act as sounding boards in frustrations and clarity in difficult situations. I'm going to skip that. To be direct, these proposed budget cuts would undermine who we are as educators. And then one of you spoke very nicely, every student and at every school is going to be affected. We complement each other in a myriad of ways, and these cuts would just basically cause chaos. I feel that they would, in my personal opinion, would negatively impact teacher retention and morale district-wide. Some of our students are some of the most vulnerable, and some of them are dealing with complications and traumas that we can't imagine. I've said that here before. So it's great that we're adding things in, but I still have kids who come to me for a connection of just getting a pencil, when we all know it's not about a pencil. But I see students every morning who come and check in.
15 seconds remaining.
I don't have any more words tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we're going online to Kei Kamiyama. I got you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can. Yep.
Okay, good evening, Chair and members of the school committee. My name is Kei Kamiyama. I'm the librarian at Fuller, as well as a culture and belonging advocate. First, thank you for your hard work and for your votes to restore more positions this evening. I had prepared comments, and I'd still like to read them because I'd like to protect these roles from future consideration for elimination. The 2 roles I wanted to discuss were the Director of Belonging and School Culture and the DEI coach at Fuller. Including them in the proposed cuts was deeply concerning given FPS's stated commitments in its strategic plan. The district entered this year having already experienced significant cuts from the previous year, and I just wanted to outline this because it's significant. Included in cost-saving measures were the elimination of the Assistant Superintendent of Equity, Belonging, and Community Engagement, an executive assistant in that office, the Title IX Coordinator and Manager of Inclusion, the Wraparound Manager and Call Center personnel, multiple Family Support Coordinator positions, and the Equity Projects Coordinator position. These were not peripheral roles. They were core equity infrastructure supporting student safety, compliance, and family engagement. And in response to that large sweep of eliminations, this committee advocated for and approved the creation of a new role, the Director of Belonging and School Culture. And it was created to stabilize and coordinate district-wide inclusion efforts. To propose eliminating it 60 days after it was filled sends a very troubling message about our commitment to inclusion and belonging. The updated budget memo explained that the director, along with the DEI coach, could be replaced with the work of building-based advocates. But without district-level leadership and support from the DEI coach, I do not believe that the advocates can move equity work forward sufficiently. I'd also like to point out that Tara Whitehurst has the title DEI coach, but she does so much more in our school, including running the student council, creating and facilitating affinity groups, and helping to teach topics that come up in ELA. She is irreplaceable.
Thank you, that's time.
Thank you.
Is Bella still here? Bella, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Bella Roberts. I'm a student of Walsh Middle School. I have dyslexia and dyscalculia, which means I don't learn like everybody else. This year has been a good year, but it hasn't always been this case. For a long time, school had made me feel like I was always left behind. I'd struggle to read directions and understand questions, and by the time I would finish, my class would already be done, or the teacher just didn't have time to help me. That made me feel frustrated and alone. When I was pulled out to get support, it was during science or social studies, classes that I enjoyed. When I came back, the class had already moved on. Even though I was getting help, I was missing out. In the first grade, learning how to read wasn't easy for me. My mom had to explain to me my brain works differently, and that we had to figure out how my teachers could help me. But that took time. This year feels different. Now I'm getting reading support during wind block, and I'm working with an amazing special educator, Miss Starr. She helps me stay organized and finish work, and most importantly, speak up for myself. Learning how to speak up for myself is something that I'll need for the rest of my life. Also, Miss Starr helps in my math and ELA class, so I can get help right when I need it. I don't feel invisible, and getting help feels normal, not embarrassing. But I know students with learning differences are not as lucky as I am this year. And some are not as lucky as I am this year. And I'm worried about that. I'm worried about them. And I'm worried if I'm going to be as lucky next year. Support like this shouldn't depend on luck. Everyone with learning differences deserves this kind of help every year, not just some years. When students like me get the support we need, we don't just get by. We learn, we grow, and we succeed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's see. Online, we have Meenakshi Verma Agrawal.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, yep. 2 minutes.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I just want to make a comment about this public comment time. It excluded a lot of people from being able to stay and participate, so my request is to potentially adjust the agenda so that more people can participate from the community, because many folks had to leave and weren't able to give their public comments, and it was important to have those comments in the space. I am also thankful to the committee members for advocating for the important positions that have been put back in and a commitment to the process. I do want to say that this going through this whole budget process has destroyed a lot of trust between community and administration, and my request to the administration is to try to work authentically to build back that trust. And it's not just with the community, it's with the educators, it's with the aides, it's everyone in all the positions that were proposed to be cut. So there's some real repair that needs to be done for the harm, and my request to the administration is to please start that off on the right foot. Thank you.
Up next, we have Alicia Goodwin. Okay. Bob Bowles. Oh, sorry. Teresa.
Hi, my name is Therese Acton Roberts, and I am Bella's mom. I serve as a co-chair for the Framingham CPAC, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of special education families across the district. You just heard my daughter explain what works for her: small groups, individualized instruction, trained teachers, co-teaching, time to learn without being pulled away. And you also heard her say something very important: support like this shouldn't be about luck. What Bella describes as luck was a 7-year journey. Advocacy, private private neuropsych evaluations, tutoring, me learning to navigate the special education and IEPs. And I want to be honest here tonight. For many years, I failed Bella. I didn't request an evaluation early on because I was told not to worry. When she qualified for services, I didn't know what was appropriate for services, so I just took what the school offered. And I continue to see the learning growth gap grow. I didn't know to track whether her services were actually being delivered or ask about extended year services. Those gaps in knowledge, things I didn't know, meant my daughter reached the end of 5th grade, reading 3 years below grade level. And I have 2 graduate degrees in education, and this still wasn't easy. Eventually, though, networking, I learned what Bella needed and the resources and knowledge that not all families may have access to. But it shouldn't be that hard. That brings me to compliance. Compliance on paper does not guarantee meaningful progress for our students. The state has already warned us that Framingham's determination needs intervention. Sorry, I was sitting here all night.
Thanks, that's time. If you mind wrapping up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Up next, Mr. Bowles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Robert Bowles, District 4. I've been speaking here for over 30 years now. The problem is, for many, many years, we were not getting near the Chapter 70 money we should have. All of a sudden, the last few years, we've been getting a little closer to what we should have been getting. The problem is we can't count on that money all the time. And we have been spending every last penny the last few years of it. Years ago, I coined the phrase at town meeting, Framingham has to learn to live within its means. And that's what we should be doing. When 2 respected financial committee members retired and left town meeting, the last thing they stated is, we have to learn to live within our means. When George King left as town manager, he stated that when he left. That was the last thing he said. Framingham has to learn to live within its means. I bought my house here in 1962. I'm trying to stay here. Framingham is, and always was, a working class town, and now a working class city. We are not a bedroom community with lots of rich people funding their school system, which I worked in for over 30 years. This is a working class city now. Always was a working class town when I came, and it was affordable. Framingham isn't affordable anymore, and it's...
15 seconds, Mr. Bowles.
That's it. I mean, we got to watch the money.
Thank you. All right, go ahead. 10:59.
If the committee decides to cut support staff for our most vulnerable students, this would be staffing for compliance, not staffing for success. These potential cuts would be based on current vacancies, not on what is needed to maintain higher levels of support for students who rely on consistent academic, behavioral, and social emotional services. Meeting the minimum legal requirements is not the same as fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility to the school department or to the students you serve. As fiduciaries, you must ensure staffing decisions to maintain higher levels of staffing to improve student success, in line with the FPS strategic plan's promise to, quote, provide an inclusive and equitable educational environment where every student feels valued, respected, and supported, and to deliver, quote, rigorous and relevant learning experiences that help students achieve their highest potential. When services for vulnerable students are reduced, the committee must be prepared to be publicly accountable for the real and lasting consequences. Thank you.
I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Moshe, seconded by Mr. Labarge. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, 9-0. This meeting is adjourned at 11 p.m.